History is meant to be a closed book, its pages dated, its chapters neatly ordered. Yet every so often, something is unearthed that refuses to fit. An object pulled from stone, sand, or ice that carries the unsettling suggestion that our understanding of the past is incomplete. Across the world, archaeologists have uncovered artifacts that appear far ahead of their time, objects bearing advanced craftsmanship, unexpected materials, or symbols no civilization should have known. These discoveries don't scream fantasy. They sit quietly in museums, storage rooms, and academic debates, challenging timelines with unnerving calm. Were these the products of lost knowledge, forgotten innovators, or moments in history we've misunderstood entirely? As the camera drifts over weathered metal, precision-cut stone, and markings that seem impossibly deliberate, one question lingers. How could such things exist when, according to history, they shouldn't? Tonight, we're stepping into that uncomfortable space between certainty and doubt, examining ancient artifacts that defy explanation and asking what they might reveal about the true depth of human history. In a quiet museum setting in northern Italy, resting behind glass and carefully controlled light, lies a small bronze object no larger than a human hand. Its surface is darkened with age, etched with fine lines and unfamiliar inscriptions. At first glance, it appears unassuming, almost clinical in its precision. But this object, known as the Etruscan liver of Piacenza, has unsettled historians and scholars for more than a century. Discovered in 1877 near the town of Piacenza, the artifact is a meticulously crafted bronze model of a sheep's liver, dated to the late 2nd century BCE. It is divided into sections, 16 of them, each inscribed with the names of deities from the Etruscan pantheon. To the Etruscans, a civilization that flourished in Italy long before the rise of Rome, the liver was not merely an organ. It was a map of the cosmos. Ancient sources confirm that Etruscan priests, known as haruspices, practiced a form of divination called haruspicy, the reading of omens through the examination of animal entrails, particularly the liver. The liver of Piacenza appears to be a teaching tool, a reference model used to train priests to interpret divine messages. Each marked section corresponded to a region of the sky and a specific god, allowing the priest to read the will of the heavens through physical matter. This explanation fits comfortably within what we know of ancient religious practices. And yet, the deeper scholars look, the more questions emerge. The precision of the object is striking. The divisions are not random. They reflect a highly structured cosmology, one that divides the universe into ordered zones governed by specific divine forces. Some researchers have noted parallels between this system and later Roman religious practices, suggesting that much of Roman divination may have been inherited, quietly and incompletely, from the Etruscans. But other elements are harder to reconcile. Several deity names on the liver remain obscure, appearing nowhere else in known Etruscan inscriptions. Were these local gods, lost names, or fragments of a belief system that never fully survived into written history? More speculative interpretations go further. A few fringe researchers have wondered whether the liver of Piacenza represents not just a spiritual map, but a conceptual model of reality, an attempt to encode natural laws, cycles, or even astronomical knowledge into ritual form. The 16-fold division has been compared, cautiously, to ancient sky charts and directional systems used in other early cultures. Is this coincidence, or evidence of shared symbolic language across civilizations? Others ask why the Etruscans placed such importance on internal anatomy. Did they believe the human body, and by extension the animal body, was a mirror of the universe itself? A living diagram of cosmic order? If so, the liver becomes more than a divination tool. It becomes a philosophical statement about humanity's place within a larger, unseen structure. What complicates matters further is how little we truly know about the Etruscans. Their language is only partially understood. Their texts are fragmentary. Much of what survives comes filtered through Roman writers who often viewed Etruscan religion with a mixture of respect and unease. The liver of Piacenza, then, speaks from a culture that left few clear explanations behind. Is it simply an instructional object, practical and symbolic, grounded firmly in its time? Or is it a remnant of a deeper system of knowledge, one that blended religion, astronomy, and anatomy in ways we no longer fully grasp? As the bronze surface catches the light, its inscriptions remain silent. The lines still divide, the names still endure, and the question lingers, unresolved. How much of the Etruscan understanding of the world has been lost, and how much might still be waiting to be recognized? If the Etruscans sought the will of the cosmos by reading meaning in flesh and form, the ancient Egyptians carried that same impulse into death itself, preserving the body not as an ending, but as a passage. In the cool, dust-scented stillness of an Egyptian tomb, 4 vessels are often found arranged with deliberate care. Carved from limestone, alabaster, or fired clay, their surfaces are smooth, their lids shaped into solemn faces, human, baboon, jackal, and falcon. These are the Canopic jars, objects so familiar to Egyptology that their presence can almost be overlooked. And yet, when examined closely, they raise questions that reach far beyond funerary custom. Each jar was designed to hold an organ removed during mummification: the liver, lungs, stomach, and intestines. To the ancient Egyptians, these were not expendable remains. They were essential components of identity, preserved for a future existence beyond death. Over each jar presided one of the 4 sons of Horus, protective deities whose images formed the lids themselves. Imseti guarded the liver, Hapi the lungs, Duamutef the stomach, Kebesenuef the intestines. Together, they formed a system, ordered, symbolic, and exact. This practice is well documented. Texts, tomb paintings, and surviving artifacts confirm that the jars were part of a broader ritual logic governing the afterlife. The heart, believed to contain intellect and moral truth, was left inside the body. The brain, seen as unimportant, was discarded. From a modern perspective, the choices seem inverted. Why protect the liver, but not the mind? What understanding of human consciousness guided these decisions? Mainstream scholarship explains this through religious symbolism rather than anatomy. The Egyptians did not equate thought with the brain. Instead, consciousness, memory, and judgment resided in the heart, which would later be weighed against the feather of Ma'at. The Canopic jars, then, were guardians of physical integrity, ensuring that the deceased remained whole in the afterlife. But as with many ancient systems, the more consistent the pattern appears, the more it invites deeper scrutiny. Some researchers have noted that the selected organs are closely tied to vital processes: digestion, respiration, purification. In life, they regulate balance within the body. In death, they were preserved as if that balance still mattered. Could the Egyptians have perceived these organs not merely as physical structures, but as energetic centers, anchors for forces that extended beyond biological function? The jars themselves add another layer of complexity. Early Canopic jars were simple containers. Later examples grew increasingly ornate, sometimes inscribed with spells from the Book of the Dead, sometimes sealed within nested shrines and guarded by statues. In some periods, the organs were returned to the body, yet the jars remained in the tomb, now symbolic rather than functional. Why preserve the vessels even when their original purpose had shifted? A more speculative line of thought suggests that the Canopic system encoded a forgotten framework of human anatomy, one based not on nerves and synapses, but on spiritual correspondence. The four sons of Horus align with cardinal directions, protective goddesses, and cosmic order. Were the organs chosen because they mirrored aspects of the universe itself? Microcosm and macrocosm reflected through ritual. There is also the question of consistency across millennia. For over 2,000 years, Egyptian embalmers followed variations of the same process with remarkable precision. Such continuity implies more than tradition. It suggests conviction, knowledge passed down not as theory, but as certainty. Where did that certainty originate? Standing before a set of Canopic jars today, their stone faces worn smooth by time, it is difficult not to sense intention beyond preservation. These were not containers made in haste. They were crafted to endure, to wait, to serve a purpose that extended far beyond the moment of burial. Were the Egyptians safeguarding organs, or safeguarding something we no longer know how to name? As the jars remain sealed in museum cases and hidden chambers alike, their silence persists, and with it, a quiet question. If these vessels were meant to protect the dead for eternity, what understanding of life and death has yet to be fully uncovered? If the Canopic jars preserved the body for a journey beyond death, then in far older lands between the rivers, another kind of vessel was created, not to guard organs, but to contain words meant to last forever. Deep within the ruins of ancient Girsu, in what is now southern Iraq, archaeologists uncovered two large clay cylinders, buried with deliberate care. Their surfaces are covered from end to end in dense, tightly pressed cuneiform script, line after line wrapping endlessly around the curved clay. These are known as the Gudea cylinders, among the longest and most detailed texts to survive from ancient Sumer, dating to around 2125 BCE. At first glance, they appear straightforward, royal inscriptions commissioned by Gudea, ruler of the city-state of Lagash. Translated and studied for over a century, the text describes the construction of a great temple dedicated to Ningirsu, a powerful deity associated with war, agriculture, and divine order. It recounts rituals, offerings, and architectural details with almost obsessive precision. To historians, the cylinders are invaluable records of Sumerian religion, engineering, and governance. And yet, the more carefully the text is read, the less conventional it seems. The narrative begins not with stone or labor, but with a dream. Gudea describes being visited by divine figures who deliver complex instructions, measurements, materials, alignments. He does not claim authorship of the plan. Instead, he presents himself as an intermediary, receiving knowledge from beyond the human realm. The temple is not designed by men, but revealed. Mainstream interpretation views this as symbolic language. Dreams, in the ancient world, were accepted channels of divine communication. The gods did not whisper, they instructed. The cylinder text reflects a worldview in which rulers legitimized their authority by aligning their actions with cosmic will, but certain details resist easy dismissal. The specifications given to Gudea are unusually exact. The text describes dimensions, spatial relationships, and ritual timing with a clarity that feels less poetic than technical. Scholars note that the temple's orientation aligns with astronomical events, tying architecture to celestial cycles. Was this religious symbolism, or practical knowledge embedded within ritual narrative? The cylinders also describe purification processes, material selection, and ceremonial sequences that unfold in precise order. Every step matters. Every deviation is warned against. The language suggests not improvisation, but adherence to a fixed system, one already complete before construction began. Some researchers have compared this to a blueprint encoded as myth. In more speculative circles, the cylinders are read as something closer to transmitted knowledge. Gudea's dream is not metaphor, but mechanism, a method by which advanced information was conveyed in a form the culture could accept. The gods, in this view, are not abstractions, but placeholders for forces or intelligences beyond Sumerian comprehension. Such interpretations remain firmly outside academic consensus. And yet, even within mainstream scholarship, the question lingers. How did early Bronze Age societies achieve such architectural coherence, astronomical awareness, and logistical coordination? The Gudea cylinders do not exist in isolation. They reference earlier traditions, older temples, and long-established rituals. Gudea repeatedly emphasizes continuity, restoring what once existed, not inventing something new. This raises the possibility that the knowledge recorded on the cylinders was already ancient by his time. Then, there is the matter of intention. Unlike many inscriptions meant to be displayed, the Gudea cylinders were buried within the temple structure itself. They were not for public reading. They were sealed away, placed beneath foundations, as if meant to be discovered only by those who came much later. Why record such detail only to hide it? One explanation is ritual permanence. By embedding the text within the building, the words became part of the structure, binding the physical temple to its divine authorization. The inscription did not need readers. It needed to exist. But another possibility suggests itself. Preservation. Clay tablets were fragile. Cylinders, thick and carefully fired, were durable. They were designed to endure collapse, burial, and time. Was this simply practical craftsmanship or a deliberate act of safeguarding information? The language of the cylinders also reveals an unusual humility for a ruler. Gudea does not boast of conquest. He does not emphasize dominance. Instead, he presents himself as a caretaker, a servant of a larger order. Power here is not ownership of knowledge, but obedience to it. What kind of society produces leaders who see themselves as transmitters rather than creators? As scholars continue to refine translations, subtle ambiguities remain. Certain terms resist direct interpretation. Words associated with radiance, resonance, and measure carry layered meanings, technical, spiritual, and symbolic all at once. Were these poetic flourishes, or echoes of concepts that no longer have modern equivalents? Standing before the cylinders today, their surfaces cracked but legible, one cannot ignore their quiet insistence. They are not proclamations. They are records, instructions, memories pressed into clay. Whether they document divine inspiration, sophisticated religious tradition, or something more elusive, the Gudea cylinders remain what they have always been. Messages from a civilization that believed knowledge was not discovered, but received. And as those words continue to circle endlessly around the clay, the question remains open. How much of what we call ancient belief was, in fact, ancient understanding, waiting for us to recognize it? From the baked clay of Sumer, inscribed with messages meant to outlast empires, we move forward in time and northward, into a landscape shaped not by temples or ziggurats, but by earth and silence. In the gentle rise of a grassy hill overlooking the River Deben in Suffolk, England, the ground once hid a ship, not a wreck, but a burial. Its wooden planks long since vanished, leaving only a ghostly outline pressed into the soil. At its center, surrounded by weapons, regalia, and objects of extraordinary craftsmanship, lay a helmet unlike anything previously known from early medieval Britain. The Helmet of Sutton Hoo did not emerge whole. When first uncovered in 1939, it was shattered into hundreds of fragments, crushed by centuries of earth. Only through painstaking reconstruction did its form slowly reveal itself. A full-face helmet of iron, tinned and decorated with intricate designs in silver gilt. Its brow, cheek guards, and nasal protection forming a mask both regal and unsettling. The face stares forward, fixed and expressionless. Yet the details tell another story. The eyebrows curve into the heads of dragons, their bodies stretching across the surface, meeting at the nose to form the creature's spine. The mouthpiece becomes the dragon's tail. Even the helmet's structure participates in illusion, war gear transformed into symbolic narrative. Mainstream scholarship places the helmet in the early 7th century, during a period once dismissively labeled the Dark Ages. The burial is widely believed to belong to a king of East Anglia, most often identified as Redwald. The objects within the ship, gold coins, ceremonial weapons, imported silverware, speak of wealth, trade, and political reach far beyond what early medieval Britain was once thought capable of. The helmet itself reflects this complexity. Its design bears striking similarities to helmets found in Sweden, particularly those from Vendel and Valsgarde. This suggests not isolation, but connection, a shared elite culture spanning the North Sea. Ideas, artisans, or even entire belief systems may have traveled these routes, carried by ships that linked distant shores. Yet the helmet does more than protect. It communicates. The imagery is deliberate, layered, and deeply symbolic. Warriors and beasts appear locked in eternal combat. Interlaced patterns suggest motion without beginning or end. The helmet does not merely present a face, it constructs an identity. When worn, the individual beneath it would become something more than human, a fusion of man, myth, and authority. This raises a question historians continue to explore. Was the helmet meant for battle, ceremony, or both? Its weight and construction suggest it could be worn in combat, yet its fragility and ornamentation imply restraint. Perhaps its true function was psychological, a tool to inspire loyalty, fear, or reverence before a blow was ever struck. Some interpretations go further, viewing the helmet as a ritual object. The mask-like face, the animal transformations, the merging of protection and symbolism echo traditions found in shamanic cultures across the world. In such systems, warriors do not simply fight. They embody forces, ancestors, spirits, or totemic beings. Is it possible that the Sutton Hoo helmet was designed not only to shield the body, but to transform the wearer's role within the world? The burial context adds to the mystery. Ship burials are rare, and their meaning remains debated. Was the vessel intended as a literal conveyance to the afterlife, a symbol of journey and transition, or a display of power meant to echo long after death? Notably, no body was found. Acidic soil erased all trace of human remains. We are left with absence, a void at the center of one of the richest burials ever discovered in England. This absence invites speculation, though no definitive answers. Was the individual cremated elsewhere? Was the burial symbolic rather than physical? Or is the missing body simply another reminder of time's selective preservation? The helmet, too, carries unanswered questions. Its craftsmanship is exceptional, yet no workshop has been identified. Its symbolism is coherent, yet no written tradition explains it. It emerges fully formed, as if part of a tradition we can no longer see. Standing before the helmet today, reconstructed and displayed under controlled light, its gaze remains unchanged. It does not reveal its secrets easily. It offers no inscription, no explanation, only form, pattern, and presence. Was this helmet a reflection of a king's identity, or a vessel for something larger than the individual? A symbol of inherited knowledge passed through generations of elite warriors? Or an artifact marking a brief moment when myth and material power were inseparable? As the quiet hills of Sutton Hoo continue to overlook the river below, one wonders how many other stories remain buried, not lost but waiting just beneath the surface. From the silent hills of Suffolk, where the helmet of Sutton Hoo gazed across grassy earth, we move southward and eastward, across deserts and ancient river valleys, to a city long vanished beneath the sands of Mesopotamia. Here lies an artifact that, like its predecessors, speaks not with words audible to the ear, but with a voice that has traveled millennia, soft, deliberate, and profoundly human. In the ruins of Babylon, during an excavation in 1879, archaeologists uncovered a small baked clay cylinder, no taller than a modern water bottle, its surface inscribed with cuneiform so fine it seems almost impossible for human hands to have carved. This is the Cyrus Cylinder, an artifact that has captivated historians, politicians, and scholars for over a century. The cylinder records the conquest of Babylon by Cyrus the Great, founder of the Persian Empire, in 539 BCE. At first glance, the text is straightforward. It praises Cyrus as a liberator, outlines the policies he enacted following the conquest, and emphasizes his restoration of temples and repatriation of displaced peoples. Its language is diplomatic, almost understated, a proclamation of power coupled with clemency. Yet despite its modest size, the Cyrus Cylinder carries weight far beyond its material form. It is often called the world's first charter of human rights, though such a label is modern interpretation rather than ancient intention. The cylinder emphasizes respect for local customs and religions, portraying a ruler whose authority is validated not only by conquest, but by acknowledgement of cultural continuity. For a people accustomed to the harsh reigns of kings and conquerors, this text would have been remarkable. The mainstream view situates the cylinder firmly within its historical context, a political document designed to legitimize Cyrus's rule and to present an image of benevolent kingship to both his new subjects and neighboring states. Inscriptions such as these were common in Mesopotamia, used by Assyrian and Babylonian kings alike. But the Cyrus Cylinder stands out. Its emphasis on human dignity, on returning exiles to their homes, on rebuilding religious structures, presents a tone rarely matched in the annals of ancient imperial administration. There are, however, deeper mysteries embedded in the text. The cylinder repeatedly portrays Cyrus as chosen by the Babylonian god Marduk, rather than asserting his own divinity outright. Why would a foreign conqueror allow himself to be framed as the instrument of a local deity? Some scholars argue it reflects a sophisticated understanding of politics, a method of weaving legitimacy into the existing cultural framework. Yet others speculate that this could hint at a ruler attuned not only to human power structures, but to the spiritual currents of the land he sought to govern. The physical form of the cylinder itself invites curiosity. Unlike royal inscriptions intended for public display, the Cyrus Cylinder was buried in a temple wall, hidden from view. Its existence depended on preservation, on being uncovered centuries later. Was this placement purely ceremonial, a symbolic act of embedding authority within sacred space? Or was it an intentional preservation of knowledge meant for discovery by future generations? An early recognition that history itself might bear witness to moral choices? The text also raises questions about the nature of empire and ethics in antiquity. Cyrus's approach to governance, as described on the cylinder, appears almost radical when compared to contemporaneous rulers. Could this have been a pragmatic tool, a way to ensure stability in a newly conquered territory? Or did it reflect a genuinely unprecedented philosophy of leadership? And if so, where did such ideas originate? Was Cyrus innovating, or was he tapping into long-standing traditions, perhaps even sources now lost to time? In recent decades, the cylinder has also taken on symbolic significance far beyond the academic. Modern interpretations often celebrate it as a symbol of tolerance, coexistence, and justice. Yet, it is important to note that, as with many ancient texts, the meaning may be layered, contextual, and not fully recoverable. The Cyrus Cylinder does not speak to us in plain language. It offers glimpses, fragments, echoes. It invites interpretation, but resists definitive answers. Standing before the cylinder today, whether in a museum display or imagined in the ruins of Babylon, one cannot ignore its quiet power. It is small, unassuming, yet it carries the weight of a moment when human authority, culture, and morality intersected in ways that would reverberate far beyond its own era. The words etched in clay thousands of years ago remind us that governance, justice, and human dignity were questions long pondered and long contested. And so, as we consider this modest object, we are left with questions that stretch across time. How much of what we call history was guided not merely by force, but by an awareness of moral consequence? How many other principles, laws, or visions have been encoded in fragile artifacts, waiting for discovery? And what might the Cyrus Cylinder tell us, quietly and patiently, about the potential for leadership that respects both power and humanity, a possibility glimpsed but never fully understood across the millennia? Continuing from the echoes of empire recorded on the Cyrus Cylinder, an artifact that captured power, morality, and human aspiration, we now turn to another circular object, one that claims to reach even deeper into the very blueprint of life itself. Imagine a heavy, dark stone disc resting in the soft light of a museum hall. Its surface is smooth and round, with a small central hole, and upon closer inspection, strange patterns emerge. Figures that some claim resemble the earliest stages of life. Cells dividing, shapes reminiscent of embryos, symbols evoking spermatozoa and ova. This is the so-called genetic disc, an artifact that has sparked intrigue and debate for decades. The disc is made of lyddite, a very hard and layered stone, roughly 27 centimeters in diameter and weighing about 2 kilograms. It was reportedly discovered buried in a remote area of Colombia, among other enigmatic objects. Its engraved patterns, flowing across both sides, appear to depict biological processes only understood in the modern era, such as cell division and early embryonic development. Proponents argue that the disc shouldn't exist in prehistoric times, since microscopy and cellular biology were technologies developed only in the last few hundred years. Yet mainstream experts approach these claims with caution. The first question concerns provenance. There is no verified archaeological context for the disc's discovery, and the documentation surrounding it is sparse. Even the stone itself was identified by mineralogists, rather than archaeologists able to place it in a cultural framework or date it reliably. This uncertainty opens the door to multiple interpretations. Some suggest that the disc could be a genuinely ancient object created by a pre-Columbian culture, using symbolic artistic conventions unfamiliar to us, but later interpreted as biological forms. Perhaps the images reflect mythic or cosmological concepts, rather than literal scientific knowledge. Others propose that the disc could be a modern creation, intentionally or otherwise attributed an ancient origin. Without secure excavation records or dating, skeptics point out that while intricate carvings in stone are not unusual in pre-Columbian South America, representations of microscopic biology are unparalleled. Supporters of the disc's significance point to the material itself. Lyddite is exceptionally hard and brittle, layered in a way that would make carving extremely difficult with ancient tools. Some speculate this indicates lost techniques or knowledge of stonework now unknown. Yet even here, caution is warranted. Modern stoneworkers can shape such materials with comparative ease, and without a clear context, it is impossible to determine whether the disc is truly ancient or a clever modern artifact. The cultural attribution of the disc remains equally elusive. It is sometimes associated with the Muisca civilization, known for its sophisticated metalwork and cosmology, but there is no concrete archaeological evidence linking the disc directly to this culture. The genetic disc occupies a broader conversation about so-called forbidden archaeology, artifacts that appear to challenge established timelines or technological assumptions. In this sense, the disc becomes a symbol of what we don't know as much as what we do. It forces us to question the completeness of the historical record, the biases inherent in interpretation, and the ways knowledge, both scientific and historical, is constructed. Standing before an image of the disc, or contemplating its strange iconography, one cannot ignore the sense of wonder it evokes. The depictions of embryonic and cellular forms spark intrigue precisely because they touch on knowledge understood only in recent centuries. Yet without rigorous documentation, reliable dating, or clear cultural context, we are left with possibilities, not certainties. Did this object emerge from a prehistoric culture with symbolic worlds we have yet to decode? Does it hint at a level of knowledge lost to time? Or is it a modern creation that invites speculation? Most profoundly, what does our desire to find complex knowledge in distant ages reveal about our own relationship with the past? In the interplay between mystery and meaning, the genetic disc remains unresolved, an artifact that shouldn't exist in the framework of conventional history, yet does. It challenges us to reconsider what we think we know about the origins of human understanding and the hidden depths of our ancestors' imagination. From the enigmatic circular carvings of the genetic disc, which hint at knowledge seemingly beyond their time, we now turn to a far older and equally mysterious testament to human creativity, the stone heads of Ghazal. Unlike the disc, whose meaning may lie in abstract biological symbolism, these objects confront us with the most intimate of human questions: identity, representation, and the ways early societies sought to give form to the human face. In the fertile plains of modern-day Jordan, near the ancient site of Ghazal, archaeologists began unearthing a series of statues that immediately defied expectations. Buried beneath layers of Neolithic settlement, these stone figures date back to approximately 6,500 to 7,000 BCE, placing them among the earliest large-scale human representations ever discovered. Most striking are the heads themselves, sculpted with a careful attention to detail. The faces are elongated, eyes hollowed yet expressive, and features meticulously shaped. Some retain traces of plaster and paint, suggesting that color once enhanced their presence. The heads are detached from their bodies, many found in clusters or buried deliberately, hinting at rituals of deposition rather than casual placement. Some have two faces, a phenomenon that appears symbolic rather than anatomical. These statues are life-sized in proportion to the head, yet they are weighty, crafted from limestone in a labor-intensive process that implies planning, cooperation, and reverence. Mainstream archaeology situates the stoneheads of Ghazal within the context of a sedentary, agrarian society. Scholars suggest that these figures were likely used in ancestor veneration, representing individuals of social or spiritual importance. The hollow eyes may have held inlays or symbolic objects, allowing them to see in a ritual context, maintaining presence in the lives of the living. Burials of the heads could mark death, memory, or transformation, ensuring continuity between generations. Yet the more closely these artifacts are studied, the more questions emerge. The scale and sophistication of the heads suggest a society capable of sustained, organized artistic production at a time when writing had not yet been invented, and large stone sculpture was exceedingly rare. How did these Neolithic communities conceptualize the human form with such abstraction and precision? Were these representations of real individuals or archetypal figures embodying broader social or spiritual ideas? Even more curious is the prevalence of dual or paired faces in some examples. Does this signify duality in identity, a metaphysical understanding of life and death, or perhaps a symbolic embodiment of collective memory? Some researchers suggest that the heads may reflect a sophisticated understanding of human perception, psychology, or cosmology, concepts that would later appear in much more complex societies, yet here arise in a culture that left no written record. The context of their deposition adds further intrigue. Unlike communal tools or domestic artifacts, these heads were not used in everyday life. They were buried deliberately, sometimes in pits lined with stones or alongside offerings. This purposeful concealment suggests ritual or symbolic function, yet the precise beliefs motivating such actions remain invisible to us. The statue's very isolation from ordinary life makes their meaning tantalizingly opaque. Material choice adds another layer of mystery. Limestone is soft enough to carve, yet heavy and cumbersome to transport. The labor required to create dozens of these heads implies not just skill, but an organized social structure capable of supporting specialized artisans and long-term projects. In a world without written records, how was knowledge of these techniques preserved and transmitted? Some speculative interpretations venture further. Could the stone heads reflect not only social or spiritual priorities, but also a proto-anthropological awareness? The abstraction of features, elongated faces, stylized eyes, and dual representations, may suggest an attempt to convey more than physical likeness, perhaps a representation of identity, memory, or even consciousness itself. Were these heads intended to hold the essence of the individuals they depicted, a tangible anchor between the living and the dead? What makes the stone heads of Ghazal particularly compelling is how little we can confidently assert about them. They are unmistakably human in form, yet their purpose, symbolism, and the society that created them remain only partially understood. The absence of written records means that we must rely on interpretation, context, and comparison, each providing hints but never the full picture. Standing before an image or replica of these heads, one is struck by the immediacy of their gaze. Despite millennia of soil and stone separating us from their creators, the expressions evoke thought, reflection, even empathy. They are, in a sense, the earliest dialogue between humans across time, a conversation whose content we can only begin to imagine. Were these heads merely ritualistic, a Neolithic precursor to ancestor worship? Or do they suggest a society with far more complex spiritual and psychological frameworks than previously assumed? How did these people conceptualize individuality, mortality, and memory? And most provocatively, what other aspects of human cognition and creativity existed in prehistory that left no trace beyond objects like these? In their silence and their abstraction, the stone heads of Ghazal continue to confront us with the depths of human imagination. They remind us that even in the earliest settled communities, humans were driven not only to survive, but to reflect, to symbolize, and to preserve identity across generations. And yet, the mystery endures. What truly lay behind the eyes of these stone faces, and how much of that understanding remains forever hidden beneath the layers of time? From the silent, enigmatic faces of Ghazal, which capture human identity and ritual in stone, we now journey to the depths of the sea, to a story of metal, myth, and mystery, an artifact that seems to bridge the boundary between history and legend. The Atlantean Orichalcum ingots. Imagine, beneath the shifting currents of the Mediterranean, a cargo of metal resting on a sunken ship, its surfaces corroded but still gleaming faintly with a reddish-golden hue. These are the so-called Orichalcum ingots, first brought to wider attention following a discovery off the coast of Gela, Sicily, in the 18th century, and later in other submerged sites near the Mediterranean. The metal was described as something extraordinary, heavier than copper, with a luminescent sheen, resistant to corrosion, and unmistakably artificial in its composition. Orichalcum is famously referenced in Plato's accounts of Atlantis, where he described it as second only to gold in value and used extensively in the construction and decoration of temples and palaces. For centuries, its precise composition, origins, and even existence were subjects of skepticism. Was it purely myth, a literary flourish in a philosophical allegory? Or could this metal, now recovered from the sea, be evidence of a forgotten metallurgical knowledge, long lost to history? Analysis of the ingots recovered from modern excavations indicates a complex alloy, predominantly copper with traces of nickel, zinc, and other elements, resulting in a reddish-golden surface that suggests deliberate refinement. The sophistication of the alloy implies advanced knowledge of smelting and metalworking, far beyond what some historians would expect from the cultures operating in the Mediterranean at the time. How was such metal produced, and why did it seemingly disappear from human use for millennia? Mainstream archaeology situates these ingots in practical terms. They were cargo, likely intended for trade, possibly scrap metal to be melted down and recast elsewhere. Their discovery in shipwrecks aligns with historical patterns of commerce and resource distribution in the Bronze and Iron Ages. And yet, the material itself continues to spark intrigue. The luminescence, the density, the apparent stability of the metal in salt water over centuries. These features are unusual and invite questions about its technological origins. Speculative interpretations go further. Some researchers have suggested that orichalcum may have been an intentionally crafted alloy with properties not fully understood by contemporary civilizations, resistant to corrosion, visually striking, and perhaps imbued with symbolic or even ritual significance. Could this have been a metal valued not only for utility, but for prestige, power, or even spiritual resonance? In Plato's description, it adorned temples and sacred spaces, indicating a purpose beyond mere function. Others propose a more provocative idea, that orichalcum represents a lost branch of human metallurgical knowledge, a technology that allowed civilizations to manipulate alloys in ways that would not reappear until modern metallurgy centuries later. The deliberate use of multiple metals in precise ratios, resulting in durability and distinctive coloration, suggests experimentation, observation, and systematic understanding. Was this knowledge widespread or limited to an elite cadre of artisans and rulers known only in myth and scattered artifacts? The locations of the ingots also raise questions. They are consistently found in submerged contexts, often associated with shipwrecks whose roots and origins are partially known but remain incomplete. Why would such a rare and valuable metal travel by sea, yet leave so few traces on land? Does this hint at maritime trade networks far more sophisticated than conventional accounts suggest? Or are we glimpsing fragments of lost civilizations whose records and technologies were swallowed by the oceans? Even the name, orichalcum, carries mystery. Plato's writings suggest a metal precious, almost magical, and distinct from the gold and silver commonly used in his time. Its recovery from the sea, in forms that correspond with textual descriptions, tantalizes historians and treasure hunters alike. How much of Plato's account was allegorical, and how much might have been rooted in material reality? The orichalcum ingots also invite reflection on human perception of value, knowledge, and legacy. Metals, unlike stone or pottery, are dynamic. They can be melted, reshaped, and reused. The disappearance of orichalcum from the historical record may reflect not only loss through neglect or conflict, but a deeper lapse in human knowledge, a technology known, applied, and then forgotten. What was it about this metal that allowed it to captivate imaginations both ancient and modern, yet evade sustained understanding for thousands of years? Years? Standing before images of the ingots, with their faint reddish-golden glow barely dulled by centuries beneath the sea, one senses an intersection of history, myth, and human curiosity. They are functional, yet aesthetic, ancient, yet technologically sophisticated. They invite speculation without providing resolution. Were these ingots remnants of a trade network we barely understand, or fragments of a civilization whose technological sophistication far exceeded its contemporaries? Did they originate from cultures familiar to historians, or from peoples now lost to the tides of time? And, most tantalizingly, could they be remnants of the legendary Atlantis itself, a material echo of a society described in philosophical allegory but rooted in tangible reality? In their weight, color, and enduring presence beneath the waves, the Atlantean Orichalcum ingots remain a mystery, an artifact that shouldn't exist according to conventional historical understanding, yet does, reminding us that beneath the surface of myth and legend, the material traces of forgotten knowledge may still await discovery. From the sunken ingots of the Mediterranean, which whisper of lost knowledge and civilizations long vanished beneath the waves, we now move northward across continents and centuries to the dense forests and frozen soils of the upper Midwest. Here lies an artifact that has stirred debate for more than a century, a stone that challenges assumptions about who traveled across the Americas long before European colonization. The Kensington Runestone. In the late autumn of 1898, a Swedish immigrant named Olof Oman was clearing trees on his farm near Kensington, Minnesota, when his axe struck something hard buried in the soil. Unearthed from the earth was a slab of gray sandstone, roughly 2 feet in length, its surface covered with runic inscriptions. At first glance, it seemed like a curious relic of Scandinavian heritage, but the details quickly sparked fascination and controversy. The inscriptions, carved with deliberate care, told a story, a journey by a group of Norse explorers into the interior of North America, dated to the year 1362. The Kensington Runestone describes a party of 30 men traveling inland, facing hardships and encounters with indigenous peoples. The text is carved in runes resembling those used in medieval Sweden, but with stylistic anomalies that have made translation and interpretation contentious. Some characters appear archaic, others inconsistent, suggesting either an unusual dialect or a later adaptation by someone attempting to emulate historical forms. Mainstream historians remain skeptical. The primary argument against authenticity is linguistic and contextual. Certain rune forms and spellings were not in use in the 14th century, and the history of Norse exploration in North America, as evidenced by archaeological sites such as Lons aux Meadows, does not provide clear precedent for expeditions reaching this far inland. To many scholars, the stone appears to be a 19th century creation, perhaps an elaborate hoax or a product of European-American imagination eager to assert a deeper ancestral claim to the land. Yet the skepticism is far from universal. Advocates for the stone's authenticity note that the runes exhibit linguistic patterns that would have been obscure to 19th century settlers, suggesting a knowledge of archaic writing beyond casual imitation. Furthermore, some proponents point to environmental context. The stone was found buried, in situ, beneath layers of glacial till and soil, implying that it had been in place for centuries rather than recently carved. Could it be that the Kensington Runestone is a rare, isolated testament to Norse journeys further south and west than commonly recognized? Physical examination of the stone adds layers of intrigue. The weathering of the carved surface appears consistent with long-term exposure to the elements, yet some researchers note that certain scratches and patina patterns could have been artificially aged. The ambiguity of erosion leaves interpretation open. Natural processes, human intervention, or some combination thereof. The narrative content of the inscription itself invites further speculation. If authentic, it paints a picture of organized exploration, survival, and cultural encounter. The Norsemen depicted are not merely wandering adventurers. They are travelers with knowledge of navigation, settlement, and social organization, moving through a landscape both vast and unknown. How might such a journey have been possible without leaving other material evidence along the way? Are there archaeological traces yet undiscovered, or has time simply erased them from view? The stone also raises questions about perception, memory, and history. In the late 19th century, when Minnesota was a new home for many Scandinavian immigrants, the discovery of such a relic would have resonated deeply with ideas of ancestral legacy and connection to distant homelands. Could the stone have been created or enhanced in response to these cultural currents, blending myth and desire for historical significance? Or does it genuinely record events that mainstream history has overlooked? Some fringe interpretations take the mystery further, suggesting that the Kensington Runestone might hint at a network of Norse expeditions, oral traditions, or even secret knowledge lost to time. The runes, the route described, and the apparent sophistication of the party all challenge conventional assumptions about the limits of pre-Columbian exploration. If authentic, the stone would not merely be a curiosity, it would demand a re-evaluation of early contact between Europeans and the Americas, centuries before Columbus. Standing before an image of the Kensington Runestone today, one cannot ignore its presence. The gray sandstone, engraved with symbols both familiar and strange, conveys a sense of purpose and permanence. It is a message frozen in stone, a whisper from a past that may or may not align with recorded history. Its ambiguity is part of its power. It forces us to confront what we know, what we suspect, and what may remain forever uncertain. Was the Kensington Runestone a genuine artifact of Norse exploration deep into the American interior? Or was it a 19th century creation, imbued with cultural aspiration and historical imagination? And even if it is a hoax, what does its discovery reveal about human desire to connect with the past, to see ourselves as part of a continuum stretching across continents and centuries? In its weight, texture, and cryptic inscriptions, the Kensington Runestone continues to challenge scholars, enthusiasts, and the curious alike. It remains, in many ways, a mirror, reflecting our assumptions about history, our understanding of exploration, and our longing to uncover the hidden journeys of those who came before us. And as the stone rests quietly in its display, one is left with the enduring question: how much of our history lies just beneath the surface, waiting to be unearthed, or waiting to remain a mystery? From the hidden microshapes buried deep within the Ural Mountains, objects so small and so unexpected that they provoke questions about ancient craftsmanship and geological history, we now turn to another enigma, this time rising from the depths of fresh water rather than stone. In the clear, cold waters of Lake Winnipesaukee, New Hampshire's largest lake, an artifact was pulled from the icy depths that has perplexed divers, historians, and amateur sleuths alike, the Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone. On a crisp morning in the summer of 1872, Captain William James, a local guide and diver renowned for his water skills, made a discovery that would echo through regional lore. Below the surface of the lake, near a site known for shipwrecks and hidden timber, James located a peculiar stone unlike any he had seen. The object was a rugged, roughly shaped rock, but affixed to its surface were geometric forms, symmetrical faces, nearly perfect circles, and a groove that resembled the outline of a human profile. Most striking of all were impressions that looked unmistakably like the shapes of human faces, carved with a precision that defied quick explanation. James brought the stone to the surface and into local discourse. At first glance, it was dismissed by many as an oddity, a natural rock formation, perhaps cracked and weathered by ice, wind, and water over centuries. But the more observers examined it, the more unusual features emerged. The faces appeared not as random fractures or chance patterns, but as deliberate impressions, as though someone had taken time and intent to shape them. The geometry of the lines suggested design rather than accident. What initially seemed like a geological curiosity began to feel more like a crafted object, lost and later found. Mainstream science offers a cautious interpretation. Rocks of many compositions, especially those subjected to cycles of freezing and thawing in lakes like Winnipesaukee, can fracture in ways that create surprising patterns. Water pressure, ice expansion, and mineral grain orientations can produce lines and shapes that seem almost crafted. Our brains, tuned by evolution to recognize faces and patterns, can easily find meaning in randomness, a psychological phenomenon known as pareidolia. From this perspective, the Mystery Stone is a compelling case of nature's ability to mimic design, a rock shaped by myriad forces over millennia that simply looks intentional. Yet the story refuses to settle into simple explanation. William James insisted the impressions were too uniform, too structured. He described circles that appeared almost mathematically precise, grooves that seemed to traverse the stone's surface with purpose, and shapes that bore resemblance to facial features across different angles. The stone, after all, was heavy, far too heavy to have been casually dropped or positioned by human hands without considerable effort. Could it have once belonged to a larger structure, perhaps a piece of a monument, a carving, or an object lost to time and tide? The age of the stone is another puzzle. Lake Winnipesaukee is ancient in its own right, shaped by glacial retreat at the end of the last ice age, over 12,000 years ago. The possibility that this rock sat at the bottom for thousands of years before its rediscovery raises questions about the people who lived and traveled in this region long before European settlement. Indigenous peoples, such as the Abenaki, have deep cultural ties to the lake and its shores. Could there have been artistic or symbolic traditions along the lake's edge that left behind stone carvings now submerged and largely forgotten? Yet, no other artifact of similar style or context has ever been reliably documented in the area. Over the decades, the stone itself vanished from public record. Some accounts claim it was transported to a private collection, others suggest it was lost to time altogether. All that remains are sketches, reminiscences, and speculation, and a sense of wonder that a simple rock could ignite such enduring debate. Some fringe interpretations have ventured further, suggesting that the stone might be evidence of pre-Columbian contact with transatlantic travelers, Vikings, or other ancient seafarers who might have reached the lakes of North America long before documented history. Proponents point to the geometric shapes and facial impressions as echoes of Old World artistry, albeit worn and transformed by centuries underwater. Critics, however, argue that the hypothesis requires leaps unsupported by archaeological evidence. No Norse settlement remains, no tools or artifacts tied to such a culture have been found in the region. Only this solitary, enigmatic stone, its origins uncertain. Yet these debates highlight a deeper question at the heart of artifacts like the Mystery Stone. What do we do when object and context slip out of sync? When an item appears removed from the known record, untethered from clear cultural or temporal markers, how do we interpret its existence? Do we look for patterns that align with established history, or do we allow the object to expand our sense of possibility? The Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone sits within a long tradition of enigmatic finds that defy easy classification. Like the runes of Kensington or the Orichalcum ingots of the Mediterranean, it challenges assumptions about who was where and when, and what skills or intentions they might have possessed. Its stone face, weathered by time and water, hints at creativity or chance, human or natural processes, and the spaces where these realms overlap. Standing before a photograph of the stone, or imagining it submerged in the cold depths of the lake, it's hard not to wonder what other mysteries lie beneath the surface, both literally and metaphorically. Are there more artifacts hidden on the lake bed, waiting to be uncovered by a curious eye or a determined diver? Could the impressions on this solitary rock be the echo of lost human expression? Or are they simply the artistry of geological forces beyond our immediate comprehension? In the end, the Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone remains exactly that, a mystery. It invites us to slow down, to look closely, and to consider that not all puzzles resolve neatly within the boundaries of established knowledge. Perhaps, like the depths of Winnipesaukee itself, there are layers of history and meaning that remain just out of reach, waiting for a future discovery to illuminate what has long been hidden beneath the calm surface. From the enigmatic stone submerged in the depths of Lake Winnipesaukee, a relic that challenges our perception of ancient human expression, we now journey westward, across deserts and mountains, to a place where the earth itself preserves an enigma that has both fascinated and perplexed modern science: the Coso Artifact. In February of 1961, a group of rock collectors in the arid terrain near Olancha, California, stumbled upon a peculiar object partially embedded in a concretion of hardened clay and minerals. What they uncovered was a small, roughly egg-shaped geode, no larger than a chicken's egg. At first glance, it appeared to be an ordinary piece of natural rock. But a closer inspection revealed something extraordinary. Embedded within the geode was a sharply defined metallic cylinder, reminiscent of a modern spark plug, with a central shaft and precise grooves, encased in the stone itself as if it had grown there. This discovery, known as the Coso Artifact, immediately raised eyebrows. How could a manufactured object, seemingly modern in design, be encased in a geological concretion that the initial finders estimated to be hundreds of thousands of years old? The object's context suggested an age far older than any known industrial artifact, creating a paradox that challenged conventional timelines of human technology. Experts in mineralogy and paleontology have examined the concretion and noted that its outer layers are composed of calcite and iron-rich mineral deposits, typical of what forms over extended periods of time in arid lakebeds or desert soils. These mineral layers suggested a slow accumulation process, prompting questions about how quickly a modern metal object could become encrusted in such a way. Some analyses propose that concretion formation can occur over decades under certain conditions, while others maintain that the appearance of significant mineralization implies much older deposition. The artifact itself is strikingly precise. The metal cylinder exhibits machining marks, a central core, and a geometry consistent with spark plug designs, an object seemingly impossible to have existed prior to the 19th or 20th centuries. Yet, the concretion around it appears aged and natural. This creates a tension between the modernity of the object and the antiquity suggested by its mineral surroundings. How could a man-made object become so seamlessly integrated into a stone-like concretion that suggests ancient origins? Mainstream science has attempted to resolve this paradox through conventional explanations. Some argue that the object is, in fact, a 20th century spark plug and the concretion is relatively recent, formed over decades by mineral-rich groundwater and soil processes. Others propose that the dating of the concretion was overestimated by early observers, who lacked modern analytical tools. From this perspective, the Coso Artifact is a curiosity, but one fully explainable through natural concretion and misinterpretation of context. Yet, even within these conventional interpretations, questions linger. The artifact's design is unusually sophisticated, and the concretion is remarkably dense. Could such a metallic component become so thoroughly encased in a matter of a few decades? Could environmental factors in arid California accelerate mineralization beyond typical expectations? Or might there be additional factors at play that we do not fully understand? Speculative interpretations, meanwhile, invite deeper contemplation. Some enthusiasts suggest that the Coso Artifact is a relic of advanced ancient technology, an artifact of a civilization capable of metallurgical precision far earlier than conventional history recognizes. In this view, the object challenges the linear narrative of technological progress, implying either the survival of knowledge lost to time or contact with a culture or intelligence whose achievements remain undocumented. Others propose a more extraordinary hypothesis, that the artifact could represent a remnant of a temporal anomaly or a piece of technology out of place in time. While these theories reside firmly in the realm of speculation, they reflect the profound unease the artifact inspires. It defies simple categorization, teasing the boundaries between geology, archaeology, and the limits of human ingenuity. Material analysis of the embedded object reinforces its mysterious qualities. The metal shows signs of oxidation consistent with prolonged exposure, yet the geometry remains sharply defined, suggesting minimal degradation. The cylinder's central shaft, grooves, and hollow core all hint at mechanical intent, and the apparent precision of its manufacture surpasses what would be expected from casual or primitive tool-making. Could this be a small component of a larger mechanism, now lost to history? Or is it a modern object whose encasement in stone occurred through entirely natural processes that mimic ancient age? The location itself adds layers to the mystery. Olancha, situated near the dry lake beds of California, has long been a repository for geological and fossil treasures. The region preserves the remains of extinct fauna, mineral formations, and even early human activity stretching back thousands of years. Within this context, the Coso Artifact emerges as a striking anomaly, a manufactured metallic object appearing in a landscape that also preserves deep geological time. Its presence challenges not just the chronology of human technology, but our assumptions about what the geological record can reveal about human activity. Moreover, the artifact exemplifies a broader phenomenon in what some call out-of-place artifacts, objects whose existence in a particular temporal or environmental context provokes questions about history's completeness. Like the genetic disk, the Kensington Runestone, or the Atlantean Orichalcum ingots, the Coso Artifact blurs the line between human craftsmanship and natural processes, between past and present. Its story is as much about the limits of observation and interpretation as it is about the object itself. Standing before an image of the Coso Artifact, one is struck by the tension between the metal and the stone, between precision and concretion. The artifact evokes a sense of wonder. The meticulous grooves suggest intelligence, design, and purpose, while the hardened layers around it suggest a history that is both ancient and unknowable. How did this object come to rest in such a place? Was it submerged or buried deliberately, or merely lost and later preserved by nature? Could we be glimpsing the remnants of a forgotten technology, or merely witnessing the extraordinary effects of geological processes over time? The Coso Artifact challenges us to reconsider our assumptions. What do we accept as the boundary between natural formation and human invention? How do we reconcile objects that appear to contradict their contexts, suggesting knowledge or craftsmanship far beyond what we expect for a given era? And ultimately, what does the existence of such artifacts reveal about the fragility of historical certainty and the ever-present possibility of discovery? In the interplay between stone and metal, natural formation and human design, the Coso Artifact remains unresolved. Its mystery persists not because of lack of curiosity, but because it inhabits a space that defies easy categorization. Like the submerged stone of Lake Winnipesaukee, or the micro-objects buried in the Ural Mountains, it beckons us to look closer, to question the familiar, and to imagine that the past may hold secrets far stranger and far more sophisticated than we have yet dared to envision. From the deserts of California, where the Coso Artifact rests encased in mineralized stone, hinting at lost technologies or unexplained processes, we now return to one of humanity's earliest cradles of knowledge, the fertile plains of Sumer, where clay, reed, and imagination gave rise to the first written records. Among these, one tablet stands out, enigmatic in both form and purpose, the Plimpton 322 tablet. Unearthed in southern Iraq in the early 20th century, Plimpton 322 is a rectangular clay tablet, its surface inscribed with neat columns of numbers arranged in a grid-like pattern. At first glance, it resembles a simple record of calculations, an exercise in arithmetic or bookkeeping. Yet closer inspection reveals a depth that has baffled mathematicians, historians, and archaeologists for decades. The tablet contains a table of numbers corresponding to Pythagorean triples, sets of 3 whole numbers that satisfy the equation. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. It predates Pythagoras by over a millennium, raising immediate questions about the extent and sophistication of Sumerian mathematics. The tablet itself is compact, roughly the size of a modern smartphone, though considerably thicker. Its edges are worn, suggesting handling over generations, and traces of red ochre highlight certain columns, perhaps indicating emphasis or importance. The cuneiform inscriptions are carefully executed, evidence of a practiced scribe or scholar familiar with numerical notation and the principles of calculation. Plimpton 322 is often interpreted as a mathematical table used for practical purposes, surveying land, constructing buildings, or solving engineering problems. Some scholars suggest it functioned as a teaching tool, demonstrating numerical relationships to students in Sumerian schools. Yet the level of abstraction and the particular arrangement of numbers hint at an understanding far more sophisticated than simple practicality. The ratios recorded in the tablet reveal an implicit grasp of trigonometric relationships, though developed centuries before formal trigonometry would appear in Greek mathematics. This raises profound questions. How did a society so ancient, with no formal algebraic notation, conceive of such numerical relationships? Were these numbers derived empirically, through trial and observation, or through theoretical understanding? And why record them in such a precise and systematic way, if not for reasons beyond mere calculation? Some researchers propose that Plimpton 322 represents a form of proto-trigonometry, used to calculate angles and proportions for construction, astronomy, or surveying. If so, the Sumerians were engaging in mathematical thought that rivals, in principle, discoveries credited to civilizations thousands of years later. The tablet's organization also suggests intentionality. Columns are methodically arranged, ratios appear consistent, and patterns emerge across the table that invite further analysis. It is not the work of chance, nor the crude arithmetic of an inexperienced scribe. It is a deliberate mathematical construction. Others have speculated on more enigmatic possibilities. Could Plimpton 322 have served as a tool for abstract exploration, a means to understand the underlying order of numbers and the universe itself? The precision and sophistication invite questions about knowledge lost to time. Did the Sumerians possess a deeper mathematical insight, one that would not be systematically rediscovered until the Renaissance or beyond? The tablet's numerical patterns also challenge modern assumptions about the development of mathematics. While most histories of math focus on Greek, Indian, and later European contributions, Plimpton 322 suggests that complex numerical understanding was already present in the Bronze Age, embedded in the daily life and intellectual pursuits of a civilization long vanished. How did such knowledge emerge, and why does so little survive? Were there schools, libraries, or repositories of learning now erased by millennia of war, decay, and conquest? Physical analysis of the tablet adds further intrigue. Clay, once inscribed, hardens when baked in kilns or dried in the sun, making records remarkably durable. Yet Plimpton 322's survival seems almost miraculous, given the upheavals of Mesopotamian history. Its preservation offers a rare window into the minds of a people who lived over 4,000 years ago, allowing modern observers to glimpse the interplay of practical necessity and abstract thought. Despite intense study, Plimpton 322 continues to resist definitive interpretation. Some scholars maintain a practical explanation. It is a teacher's aid, a mathematical reference, or a construction manual. Others argue that it points to theoretical understanding of numerical relationships far in advance of its time. What is undeniable is that the tablet embodies both precision and mystery, bridging the human desire to measure, predict, and comprehend with forms of thought that remain enigmatic to this day. The implications of the tablet are profound. It suggests a society capable of abstraction, systematic analysis, and mathematical imagination. It hints at knowledge potentially far deeper than the surviving archaeological record conveys. How many other tablets, lost to time, might have recorded calculations or theories of equal or greater sophistication? What does this say about the continuity of human curiosity and the latent potential of ancient civilizations to grasp principles we often consider modern? Standing before an image of Plimpton 322, one is struck not only by the numbers themselves but by the human presence embedded in the clay. Each stroke of the stylus represents observation, calculation, and intention. Each column, each ratio is a message from the past, a record of thought, a spark of intellect, and a reminder that even in an age without paper, without modern notation, humans sought to understand the world in abstract and elegant ways. Could Plimpton 322 be evidence that mathematics, far from evolving linearly, has a complex and intertwined history, with moments of brilliance appearing, disappearing, and re-emerging across civilizations? Might it point to a Sumerian tradition of numerical study that has otherwise vanished, leaving only tantalizing fragments like this tablet? And perhaps most compellingly, what other insights, scientific, astronomical, or philosophical, lie buried in clay, waiting to be unearthed, silently challenging our understanding of the ancient world? In its cuneiform inscriptions, in the careful arrangement of numbers, and in the enduring mystery of its purpose, the Plimpton 322 tablet remains a testament to the ingenuity, curiosity, and enduring enigma of human civilization. It bridges millennia, reminding us that the past is never fully silent, and that the quest to understand, like the numbers etched in clay, transcends time itself. From the deserts of California, where the Coso Artifact rests encased in mineralized stone, hinting at lost technologies or unexplained processes, we now return to one of humanity's earliest cradles of knowledge, the fertile plains of Sumer, where clay, reed, and imagination gave rise to the first written records. Among these, one tablet stands out, enigmatic in both form and purpose: the Plimpton 322 tablet. Unearthed in southern Iraq in the early 20th century, Plimpton 322 is a rectangular clay tablet, its surface inscribed with neat columns of numbers arranged in a grid-like pattern. At first glance, it resembles a simple record of calculations, an exercise in arithmetic or bookkeeping. Yet, closer inspection reveals a depth that has baffled mathematicians, historians, and archaeologists for decades. The tablet contains a table of numbers corresponding to Pythagorean triples, sets of 3 whole numbers that satisfy the equation a squared plus b squared equals c squared. It predates Pythagoras by over a millennium, raising immediate questions about the extent and sophistication of Sumerian mathematics. The tablet itself is compact, roughly the size of a modern smartphone, though considerably thicker. Its edges are worn, suggesting handling over generations, and traces of red ochre highlight certain columns, perhaps indicating emphasis or importance. The cuneiform inscriptions are carefully executed, evidence of a practiced scribe or scholar familiar with numerical notation and the principles of calculation. Plimpton 322 is often interpreted as a mathematical table used for practical purposes, surveying land, constructing buildings, or solving engineering problems. Some scholars suggest it functioned as a teaching tool, demonstrating numerical relationships to students in Sumerian schools. Yet the level of abstraction and the particular arrangement of numbers hint at an understanding far more sophisticated than simple practicality. The ratios recorded in the tablet reveal an implicit grasp of trigonometric relationships, though developed centuries before formal trigonometry would appear in Greek mathematics. This raises profound questions. How did a society so ancient, with no formal algebraic notation, conceive of such numerical relationships? Were these numbers derived empirically, through trial and observation, or through theoretical understanding? And why record them in such a precise and systematic way, if not for reasons beyond mere calculation? Some researchers propose that Plimpton 322 represents a form of proto-trigonometry used to calculate angles and proportions for construction, astronomy, or surveying. If so, the Sumerians were engaging in mathematical thought that rivals, in principle, discoveries credited to civilizations thousands of years later. The tablet's organization also suggests intentionality. Columns are methodically arranged, ratios appear consistent, and patterns emerge across the table that invite further analysis. It is not the work of chance, nor the crude arithmetic of an inexperienced scribe. It is a deliberate mathematical construction. Others have speculated on more enigmatic possibilities. Could Plimpton 322 have served as a tool for abstract exploration, a means to understand the underlying order of numbers and the universe itself? The precision and sophistication invite questions about knowledge lost to time. Did the Sumerians possess a deeper mathematical insight, one that would not be systematically rediscovered until the Renaissance or beyond? The tablet's numerical patterns also challenge modern assumptions about the development of mathematics. While most histories of math focus on Greek, Indian, and later European contributions, Plimpton 322 suggests that complex numerical understanding was already present in the Bronze Age, embedded in the daily life and intellectual pursuits of a civilization long vanished. How did such knowledge emerge, and why does so little survive? Were there schools, libraries, or repositories of learning now erased by millennia of war, decay, and conquest? Physical analysis of the tablet adds further intrigue. Clay, once inscribed, hardens when baked in kilns or dried in the sun, making records remarkably durable. Yet Plimpton 322's survival seems almost miraculous, given the upheavals of Mesopotamian history. Its preservation offers a rare window into the minds of a people who lived over 4,000 years ago, allowing modern observers to glimpse the interplay of practical necessity and abstract thought. Despite intense study, Plimpton 322 continues to resist definitive interpretation. Some scholars maintain a practical explanation. It is a teacher's aid, a mathematical reference, or a construction manual. Others argue that it points to theoretical understanding of numerical relationships far in advance of its time. What is undeniable is that the tablet embodies both precision and mystery, bridging the human desire to measure, predict, and comprehend with forms of thought that remain enigmatic to this day. The implications of the tablet are profound. It suggests a society capable of abstraction, systematic analysis, and mathematical imagination. It hints at knowledge potentially far deeper than the surviving archaeological record conveys. How many other tablets, lost to time, might have recorded calculations or theories of equal or greater sophistication? What does this say about the continuity of human curiosity and the latent potential of ancient civilizations to grasp principles we often consider modern? Standing before an image of Plimpton 322, One is struck not only by the numbers themselves, but by the human presence embedded in the clay. Each stroke of the stylus represents observation, calculation, and intention. Each column, each ratio, is a message from the past, a record of thought, a spark of intellect, and a reminder that even in an age without paper, without modern notation, humans sought to understand the world in abstract and elegant ways. Could Plimpton 322 be evidence that mathematics, far from evolving linearly, has a complex and intertwined history, with moments of brilliance appearing, disappearing, and re-emerging across civilizations? Might it point to a Sumerian tradition of numerical study that has otherwise vanished, leaving only tantalizing fragments like this tablet? And perhaps most compellingly, what other insights, scientific, astronomical, or philosophical, lie buried in clay, waiting to be unearthed, silently challenging our understanding of the ancient world? In its cuneiform inscriptions, in the careful arrangement of numbers, and in the enduring mystery of its purpose, the Plimpton 322 tablet remains a testament to the ingenuity, curiosity, and enduring enigma of human civilization. It bridges millennia, reminding us that the past is never fully silent, and that the quest to understand, like the numbers etched in clay, transcends time itself. From the mathematical sophistication of the Sumerian Plimpton 322 tablet, where numbers carved into clay hint at knowledge far ahead of its time, we now travel across continents and centuries to the dense jungles and stone cities of Mesoamerica. Here, in the heart of the ancient Maya civilization, we encounter one of the few surviving windows into their complex understanding of the cosmos, the Dresden Codex. The Dresden Codex is a fragile, accordion-folded manuscript, its delicate pages crafted from bark paper coated in lime, stretching over 3 meters in total length. Its edges are worn, the pigments faded in places, yet the images and symbols retain a vibrancy that speaks to the skill and intention of the scribes who created it. Each page is a tapestry of intricate glyphs, precise astronomical tables, and vivid depictions of deities, rituals, and celestial phenomena. To hold the Codex is to peer directly into the intellectual world of the Maya, a civilization whose achievements in writing, mathematics, and astronomy rivaled those of the ancient Near East and classical civilizations. The Codex is widely believed to date from the 11th or 12th century, though its roots extend deep into Maya tradition, which flourished for centuries prior. Its pages reveal detailed calculations of the movements of Venus, eclipses, lunar cycles, and other celestial events. The Maya did not merely observe the heavens. They measured, predicted, and codified the patterns into tables of astonishing precision. In these columns of numbers and glyphs, we see a civilization attuned to the cosmos in ways that modern observers still struggle to fully comprehend. One of the most compelling aspects of the Dresden Codex is its predictive capability. The tables of Venus, for instance, track the planet's cycle over decades, noting periods of visibility, conjunction, and disappearance. These calculations are so precise that some modern astronomers have marveled at their accuracy, acknowledging that the Maya had developed a system that could rival instruments available to Europeans centuries later. How could such knowledge have been achieved without telescopes or mechanical devices? Were the Maya relying solely on meticulous observation over generations, or did they possess methods and insights now lost to history? The Codex is also rich in symbolism and ritual significance. Each astronomical table is intertwined with depictions of gods, ceremonies, and sacred spaces, suggesting that observation and spirituality were inseparable. Time, in Maya thought, was cyclical and imbued with meaning. Celestial events dictated agricultural cycles, political actions, and religious ceremonies. Could it be that the Codex was not merely a scientific tool, but also a map of cosmic influence, a guide for rulers and priests to align human activity with the rhythms of the universe? Despite centuries of study, mysteries persist. The Codex contains sections that remain difficult to interpret, with glyphs whose meaning is still debated. Some passages appear to encode information about catastrophic events, calendars, or cycles extending beyond human lifespans. The precision of the calculations raises questions about the methods used. How did the Maya reconcile observational discrepancies? How did they maintain accuracy over decades? And what mathematical tools underpinned their predictions? Mainstream scholarship offers explanations grounded in meticulous record-keeping, cumulative observation, and a sophisticated understanding of arithmetic and geometry. The Maya used a vigesimal, base 20, number system, and the concept of zero, innovations that allowed them to perform calculations far beyond what might be expected for a civilization without modern instruments. Yet even with these tools, the level of precision in the Dresden Codex continues to intrigue scholars. Could there have been observational techniques or methods of recording data that are now lost, hidden within the rhythms of ritual, oral tradition, or forgotten instruments? The Codex also raises questions about survival and preservation. Of the thousands of Maya books that once existed, only a handful have survived the ravages of time, conquest, and climate. The Dresden Codex's endurance, its ability to convey knowledge across centuries, feels almost miraculous. What other insights, encoded in glyphs and numbers, were lost? How much of the Maya's understanding of the cosmos, mathematics, and history remains hidden, waiting to be rediscovered? Speculative interpretations sometimes push the boundaries further, suggesting that the Codex contains knowledge of astronomical cycles that extend far beyond conventional historical frameworks, or that the precision of the calculations hints at information received through extraordinary observational techniques. While these ideas remain controversial, they reflect the enduring fascination the Codex inspires. A sense that the Maya were engaged in intellectual endeavors whose depth challenges modern assumptions about the past. The Dresden Codex is also a story of human curiosity and perseverance. Each page reflects careful measurement, repeated observation, and a deep desire to understand patterns that govern the natural world. The scribes who created it worked within the framework of their culture, blending empirical observation with ritual and symbolism, producing a record that is both scientific and spiritual. Could it be that the blending of these approaches, science guided by ritual, observation enriched by mythology, allowed the Maya to perceive relationships in the cosmos that might otherwise have been invisible? As one examines images of the Codex, the intricate tables of Venus, the painted deities, and the glyphs whose meaning must still be deciphered, a sense of wonder emerges. This is not merely an artifact of the past. It is a bridge across time, a whisper from a civilization that achieved mathematical and astronomical insights that continue to challenge our understanding. It invites reflection on the nature of knowledge itself, on the ways human beings have sought to measure and interpret the universe, and on the fragments of wisdom that survive when so much has been lost. Could the Dresden Codex, in its delicate folds and precise tables, represent the pinnacle of ancient observational science, or a sophisticated synthesis of knowledge, ritual, and cosmic philosophy? What other insights lie hidden in its glyphs and in the lost manuscripts that have vanished from history? How much more could we learn about human intellectual achievement if even a fraction of the Maya's written legacy had survived? In the quiet observation of the Dresden Codex, one encounters a civilization that reached for the stars, calculated their movements, and sought to align human existence with cosmic rhythms. Its pages, fragile yet enduring, speak of knowledge, precision, and mystery. And as with all artifacts that seem impossibly advanced, it leaves us with questions that transcend its physical form, about the nature of intelligence, the transmission of knowledge, and the untold discoveries that may still lie hidden in the annals of human history. In the folding pages of the Dresden Codex, the Maya's vision of the cosmos survives. a silent testament to curiosity, observation, and the enduring mystery of human potential. It reminds us that even in an age we consider ancient, the pursuit of knowledge could reach heights that continue to astonish, and that the universe, as seen through the eyes of those long gone, still has lessons to teach. From the celestial calculations and intricate glyphs of the Maya Dresden Codex, which reveal a civilization attuned to the movements of the heavens, we now turn our gaze eastward to the plains of northern India, where a monumental testament to ancient metallurgy rises into the sky, the Iron Pillar of Delhi. Here, in the heart of the Qutb complex, the pillar stands not merely as a relic of a distant age, but as an enduring enigma, challenging our understanding of early engineering, craftsmanship, and the limits of ancient knowledge. Rising over 7 meters into the air, the iron pillar is deceptively simple at first glance, a single, solid column of wrought iron tapering gracefully toward its summit, capped by a bell-shaped top. Its surface bears inscriptions in Sanskrit, elegant and enduring, commemorating its dedication to the Hindu god Vishnu and recording its erection by a ruler centuries before the rise of Islamic Delhi. The pillar's smooth, rust-free surface gleams faintly in sunlight, revealing a subtle patina that hints at both age and resilience. For centuries, this singular monument has defied corrosion, surviving monsoons, heat, and pollution that would quickly consume ordinary iron. The iron pillar's composition is remarkable. Metallurgists have determined that it contains a high level of phosphorus, low sulfur, and minimal slag, a combination that contributes to its extraordinary resistance to rust. Yet what astonishes observers even more is not just its chemical makeup, but the scale and precision of its construction. Forged in a pre-industrial era, the pillar is composed of iron pieces skillfully welded together, creating a seamless monolith. How, in an age without modern smelting furnaces or mechanical tools, could artisans achieve such uniformity, such purity, and such scale? The inscriptions on the pillar also provide tantalizing hints of its origin and purpose. Dedicated to Vishnu, the text praises the valor and piety of the ruler Chandragupta II, situating the pillar within the Gupta period, roughly the 4th century CE. Yet beyond the historical record, the pillar speaks silently of technical mastery. Ancient texts mention ironworking skills, furnaces, and alloys, but few provide insight into methods capable of producing metal of this consistency and durability. Could there have been specialized techniques, lost to history, that allowed ancient Indian metallurgists to forge iron resistant to the ravages of time? The pillar's resistance to corrosion remains one of its most perplexing features. Normally, iron exposed to rain, humidity, and air over centuries develops extensive rust and structural weakness. The iron pillar, however, exhibits only minor surface oxidation, largely limited to its crevices, and a self-protective film of iron hydrogen phosphate forms on its surface, preventing further deterioration. Modern metallurgists marvel at this natural preservation, yet the original builders likely achieved it without knowledge of molecular chemistry. Was it deliberate, an empirical understanding of materials passed through generations, or a fortunate confluence of technique, climate, and composition? Beyond metallurgy, the pillar raises questions of transportation and installation. Crafted from massive iron sections, each weighing several tons, it was erected vertically without modern cranes or hydraulic devices. Ancient accounts suggest that ropes, pulleys, and human ingenuity were used, yet the exact methods remain obscure. The sheer logistical challenge, moving, assembling, and raising such a structure, speaks to a level of organization, labor management, and engineering that continues to impress. Could the pillar's erection have involved unknown techniques? Or does it reflect an overlooked mastery of simple machines applied with extraordinary skill? Some scholars and enthusiasts venture into more speculative territory. The pillar has been suggested as evidence of advanced metallurgical knowledge lost to time, perhaps even hinting at techniques resembling modern metallurgy far ahead of the conventional historical timeline. Others propose symbolic interpretations, a monument not just of devotion, but of scientific understanding encoded in metal, a demonstration of control over material, and a legacy designed to endure beyond the lifespans of kings and empires. Could the pillar have served as a knowledge artifact, transmitting methods or understanding to future generations? Or was its endurance simply an unintended miracle of craft and circumstance? The iron pillar also invites reflection on the interplay between human ambition and nature. In a world of decay, rust, and impermanence, the pillar persists, silently defying corrosion as if resisting the passage of time itself. Its surface is etched with the passage of centuries, yet remarkably intact. What does it tell us about the limits of human ingenuity, and the possibility that ancient civilizations, often underestimated, achieved feats rivaling modern technology in certain domains? Standing before the pillar today, the observer is struck by a sense of scale, both physical and temporal. It is not merely a column of iron, it is a dialogue across centuries. The hands that shaped it, the minds that conceived its proportions, and the artisans who welded and raised its sections have left a tangible imprint of intellect, skill, and determination. And yet, the deeper mysteries linger. The exact methods of forging, the subtle chemical balance that grants corrosion resistance, and the manner in which such heavy components were assembled remain partially obscured by the passage of time. Could the iron pillar of Delhi, in its silent endurance, be a testament not only to ancient devotion and artistry, but also to scientific understanding that predates much of the modern record? Might there exist other monuments, other artifacts, whose secrets are similarly hidden in plain sight, waiting to be recognized and understood? And how many of these ancient achievements have been lost, leaving only tantalizing hints of ingenuity that challenge our modern assumptions? The pillar's presence is both humbling and inspiring. It reminds us that history is not a straight line of progress, but a complex tapestry of experimentation, discovery, and occasional brilliance. In its gleaming iron and enduring inscriptions, the iron pillar of Delhi offers a glimpse into the extraordinary capabilities of a civilization long vanished, inviting us to reflect on what knowledge has survived, what has been forgotten, and what might still be waiting to be uncovered. As sunlight glints along its polished surface, and the shadow of its form stretches across the courtyard of the Qutb complex, the iron pillar stands as a monument to mystery, mastery, and the enduring human desire to leave a mark upon the world. It is both a physical structure and a question, a challenge to our understanding, and a silent witness to the ingenuity of a civilization that dared to work with the elements in ways that continue to astonish us today. The iron pillar endures not only as an artifact of history, but as a bridge across millennia, a reminder that, even in ancient times, humans achieved feats of material, engineering, and intellectual sophistication that still compel admiration, study, and wonder. And as we consider its secrets, one is left with a quiet, unyielding question. How much of our past has been lost, and how many other monuments of understanding still stand, hidden in plain sight, awaiting rediscovery? From the gleaming iron of Delhi, which has stood for over a millennium as a testament to human ingenuity and metallurgical mastery, we now journey to the sprawling plains of the Indus River, where another civilization left behind artifacts that continue to baffle and fascinate: the Indus Valley Seals. These small, intricately carved objects offer a tantalizing glimpse into a culture both sophisticated and elusive, whose language remains undeciphered, and whose societal structures hint at knowledge we are only beginning to appreciate. Discovered in the early 20th century at sites such as Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro, and Lothal, the Indus Valley seals are typically small, roughly 2 to 4 centimeters square, and carved from steatite, a soft stone that hardens when fired. Each seal bears images of animals, mythological figures, or geometric patterns, accompanied by inscriptions of short, linear symbols. The craftsmanship is exquisite. Even at such a diminutive scale, the detail is precise, the forms symmetrical, and the symbols arranged with deliberate care. One can imagine an artisan working carefully with a stylus, shaping each line and figure with a mastery honed over years of practice. The seal's functions remain enigmatic. Many appear to have been used for stamping clay or other soft materials, suggesting roles in trade, administration, or identification. Some scholars propose that they functioned as ownership markers, akin to signatures or emblems, while others see in them the potential for more complex communicative or ritual purposes. Yet the brevity of the inscriptions and the lack of a deciphered language leave much open to speculation. What was encoded in these symbols? What information did the seals carry, and to whom? Beyond their practical utility, the seals hint at a civilization with a sophisticated understanding of both economy and iconography. Animals are depicted with remarkable accuracy. Unicorn-like creatures, elephants, tigers, and bulls appear with musculature, posture, and proportion, suggesting careful observation. Could these images serve merely decorative purposes, or do they convey symbolic or religious meanings, codified knowledge, or even records of events or trade networks? Some of the most intriguing seals feature composite or fantastical creatures, as though merging elements of real animals with mythological or symbolic traits. These images provoke questions about the worldview of the Indus people. Did they possess a codified mythology, perhaps linked to cosmology or social order, that has been lost to time? Or were these creatures emblematic of social or political hierarchies, markers of guilds, cities, or dynasties, encoded in a visual language we can no longer fully interpret? The inscriptions themselves deepen the mystery. Over 400 unique symbols have been catalogued, appearing in varied sequences on different seals. The brevity of the sequences, typically 4 to 6 characters, challenges conventional linguistic analysis. Were these symbols phonetic, representing sounds, logographic, representing words or concepts, or a hybrid form? Despite decades of study, no scholar has definitively cracked the code, leaving the seals as both tools of administration and enigmatic remnants of a lost script. How could such a sophisticated system arise in a civilization whose writing is entirely disconnected from other known scripts of the era? The distribution of seals also raises intriguing questions. Thousands have been found across urban centers of the Indus Valley, yet remarkably few appear outside the civilization's heartland. This suggests a localized use, perhaps tied to specific cities, trade practices, or administrative frameworks. Yet the precision and uniformity of the seals across sites hint at standardization, a centralized knowledge or shared cultural and technological understanding that allowed artisans to replicate forms with consistency over vast distances. Some speculative interpretations extend beyond conventional archaeology. Certain researchers have suggested that the seal's symbols encode astronomical, calendrical, or even mathematical knowledge, hidden in plain sight. Could the linear sequences or geometric patterns represent calculations, measures, or encoded systems of governance? Might these small objects, carefully inscribed and widely distributed, carry insights into social organization or technological mastery that we have yet to comprehend? Material analysis adds further intrigue. Steatite, the stone of choice for many seals, is soft when first carved but hardens permanently when fired, a technique that requires understanding of controlled heating. The artisans also demonstrated remarkable skill in maintaining uniformity across seals, suggesting either specialized workshops, apprenticeship systems, or a shared corpus of techniques. Could these workshops have operated as centers of knowledge, teaching craft and literacy simultaneously, combining artistic, administrative, and symbolic understanding? Perhaps most captivating is the juxtaposition of the seal's practical and mysterious qualities. They were tools, yet they were art. They conveyed ownership, yet they may have encoded meaning beyond commerce. They are small, yet they speak volumes about a civilization capable of complex urban planning, standardized weights and measures, and far-reaching trade networks. How many other artifacts, lost to looters, erosion, or neglect, might have expanded this understanding, offering keys to a civilization that otherwise seems to vanish in the historical record? The Indus Valley seals also provoke reflection on the continuity of human curiosity and ingenuity. They suggest a people deeply observant of the natural world, capable of abstract thought, and able to encode information in durable, transportable objects. They hint at literacy, governance, and cultural cohesion, yet leave tantalizing gaps, questions about religion, mythology, and ideology that remain unanswered. In this, they resemble the Iron Pillar of Delhi or the Dresden Codex, artifacts that are at once precise, purposeful, and mysterious, challenging our assumptions about the capabilities of ancient societies. Holding a seal in one's mind or imagining it in the palm of an ancient merchant evokes a profound sense of connection across millennia. Each image, each symbol, represents thought, intention, and communication. And yet, the code remains locked, silent in its message, leaving the observer to wonder at the knowledge and artistry now partially obscured by time. Could the Indus Valley seals, in their careful design, standardized execution, and undeciphered script, represent more than administrative tools? Might they encode lost systems of knowledge, social memory, or even technology? And how many other artifacts lie hidden beneath layers of earth, waiting to reveal truths about civilizations that developed sophistication, science, and culture far beyond what the surviving records suggest? In the small squares of steatite, meticulously carved and hardened over millennia, the Indus Valley seals endure as quiet witnesses to a civilization's intelligence, artistry, and enduring mystery. They remind us that even in societies separated from our own by thousands of years, humans sought to observe, record, and encode the world around them, and that the past, though partially lost, still has secrets that challenge our understanding, inspire wonder, and invite us to look closer at the traces left behind. From the intricate inscriptions and enigmatic symbols of the Indus Valley seals, which speak silently of a civilization both advanced and elusive, we now return to the cradle of Mesopotamian civilization, where the Sumerians, long before the rise of classical astronomy, may have charted the heavens in ways that continue to puzzle modern scholars. The Sumerian star maps. These ancient records, etched in clay and preserved for millennia, suggest a culture deeply attuned to the cosmos, one capable of both observation and abstraction, of recording the dance of celestial bodies with precision that astonishes even today. The Sumerian star maps, often recovered as cuneiform tablets, are compact yet dense, their surfaces covered with small wedges and strokes that encode patterns of stars, constellations, and celestial events. Many are no larger than a modern paperback book, yet their contents hint at a sophisticated understanding of the night sky. Some tablets depict grids or circular arrangements, which scholars interpret as early forms of celestial coordinate systems, while others combine pictographs of gods or mythological figures with arrangements of stars, blending astronomy and theology. In these carvings, the Sumerians seem to observe not only the heavens but the underlying order of the universe, assigning meaning to positions, alignments, and cycles. Dating to the 3rd millennium BCE, the Sumerian star maps reflect the cumulative observations of generations. The civilization flourished in the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, where clear skies and meticulous record-keeping allowed for repeated observations of the sun, moon, and planets. The tablets reveal knowledge of the ecliptic, the lunar cycle, and the movements of Venus and Jupiter, and in some cases they suggest awareness of longer cycles, patterns stretching across decades or even centuries. How could such precise celestial understanding arise in a society without telescopes or modern instruments? Did the Sumerians rely solely on naked-eye observation, or did they develop sophisticated tools or methods that have been lost to time? One of the most striking features of these maps is the apparent integration of myth and science. Gods are not mere decoration. They appear to represent specific stars or constellations, their stories encoded as mnemonic devices for tracking celestial movements. This intertwining of narrative and observation raises profound questions. Did the Sumerians conceive of the cosmos as a living, purposeful system in which human affairs were mirrored by celestial events? Were the maps practical tools for agriculture, navigation, or ritual? Or did they also encode philosophical or spiritual insights about order, destiny, and time? Mainstream scholarship generally interprets the star maps as early astronomical tables or guides, precursors to later Babylonian star catalogs. They served both practical and ritual purposes, predicting lunar eclipses, timing festivals, or determining auspicious moments for political and agricultural activities. Yet even within these conventional frameworks, the sophistication of the tablets remains remarkable. Some maps appear to encode angular relationships between stars, hinting at geometric reasoning and observational accuracy that rival what would be seen centuries later in classical astronomy. How did the Sumerians develop such mathematical concepts, and how systematically were they applied to the heavens? Speculative interpretations extend the mystery further. Certain researchers suggest that the maps may encode knowledge of phenomena not widely observable without technology, such as long-term planetary cycles, or even records of supernovae. Others have proposed that the arrangements of stars could indicate a proto-form of navigation, enabling travel across land and river using celestial markers. Could it be that the Sumerians, through careful observation and record-keeping, had access to a body of astronomical knowledge that would later be forgotten or transformed by subsequent cultures? The physicality of the tablets adds to their intrigue. Cuneiform marks, etched into soft clay, required precision and planning. Mistakes could not easily be erased. The scribe had to anticipate each wedge and line, knowing the meaning and placement would endure. Once baked or dried, the tablet became essentially permanent. In this permanence, we encounter a deliberate desire to preserve knowledge, to transmit insight across generations. What other star maps, now lost to the sands of time, might have existed? How many celestial observations, carefully recorded and encoded in cuneiform, have vanished without a trace, leaving only tantalizing fragments behind? The Sumerian star maps also provoke reflection on the human impulse to understand the universe. They suggest a people who looked upward, who sought to chart, predict, and perhaps even influence the movements of the heavens. Could the mythological imagery encoded in the maps represent an early attempt to reconcile observation with meaning, fact with narrative? Did these early astronomers see patterns where we see randomness, or were they uncovering truths about cycles that modern science only later formalized? Even the undeciphered or poorly understood sections of some tablets hint at knowledge beyond our grasp. Symbols that resist translation, grids whose purpose remains uncertain, and arrangements of stars that do not correspond neatly to modern constellations, all point to a depth of observation and abstraction that challenges our assumptions. Were these the notes of proto-scientists, ritualists, or a combination of both? And what might we learn if we could fully interpret these ancient records, bridging the millennia to see the sky as the Sumerians saw it? In contemplating the Sumerian star maps, one is struck not only by their technical sophistication, but by the vision they represent. These tablets are more than tools. They are a testament to curiosity, patience, and the desire to understand patterns beyond immediate perception. They capture a civilization's attempt to order the cosmos, to see repetition and meaning in the movement of the sun, moon, and stars. They are reminders that the pursuit of knowledge is ancient, and that human beings, even in the earliest urban civilizations, sought to reach beyond their immediate environment to comprehend the vastness above. Could the Sumerians' observations, encoded in clay and preserved for thousands of years, reveal insights about celestial phenomena that predate modern discovery? Might these maps, along with the lost manuscripts, instruments, or observational techniques of their culture, hold keys to understanding cycles and relationships still relevant today? And what other star maps, waiting to be unearthed in forgotten ruins or hidden archives, might expand our view of ancient knowledge and challenge the boundaries of what we believe our ancestors could perceive? In tracing the wedge-shaped lines and celestial symbols across the surface of these clay tablets, we are drawn into a dialogue with a civilization that lived millennia ago. The Sumerian star maps endure as both artifacts and questions, bridging past and present, observation and interpretation, the known and the mysterious. They invite us to look beyond the familiar, to wonder at the ingenuity of those who came before, and to consider what secrets of the cosmos remain waiting, etched in clay, beneath the sands of time. From the meticulous star charts of the Sumerians, etched in clay and preserving a civilization's cosmic observations across millennia, we now journey far to the high altitudes of the Andean Plateau, to a site whose very stones seem to challenge our understanding of ancient construction, Puma Punku. Here, amidst the windswept plains near Lake Titicaca in modern-day Bolivia, lie remnants of a city whose massive stone blocks whisper of engineering mastery, precision, and techniques that continue to baffle archaeologists and architects alike. Puma Punku is not merely a ruin. It is a monumental statement in stone. Gigantic blocks of andesite and red sandstone, some weighing upwards of 100 tons, are laid with astonishing precision, their surfaces smoothed and edges sharply cut. Many bear interlocking features, perfectly carved notches and grooves that fit together with such exactitude that even a thin sheet of paper cannot be inserted between some joints. The blocks exhibit angles, right-angled cuts, and precise geometric patterns that suggest knowledge of tools and techniques beyond what is typically attributed to pre-Columbian civilizations. The scale and uniformity of the stones immediately provoke questions. How were such massive pieces quarried, transported, and positioned with the technology that we know the Tiwanaku culture possessed, roughly 500 to 1000 CE? Experimental archaeology has demonstrated that even smaller blocks require sophisticated systems of levers, ropes, and manpower to maneuver. At Puma Punku, the stones are not only massive, but intricately shaped, with multiple planes and interlocking surfaces, often featuring H-shaped cuts, grooves, and channels. How could ancient builders achieve such precision without metal tools or machinery capable of shaving stone to such exact tolerances? Equally remarkable is the alignment and placement of the blocks. Many appear to have been designed for modular assembly, with pieces cut to fit together in ways that defy simple stacking. Some blocks bear symmetrical channels that may have functioned as part of drainage systems, or possibly even as conduits for ritual water flow. Others are carved with complex geometric patterns, rectangles, trapezoids, and precise right angles, that suggest an advanced understanding of mathematics, measurement, and design. Were these purely functional, or did they carry symbolic or ceremonial significance? encoding cosmological or religious concepts in stone. Mainstream archaeology attributes Puma Punku's construction to the Tiwanaku civilization, recognizing it as part of a larger ceremonial complex that includes temples, plazas, and platforms. Scholars propose that the builders used a combination of hammerstones, bronze chisels, and other simple tools to shape and smooth the stone. Yet even with these methods, the precision of the cuts, the straightness of channels, and the fitting of stones remains astonishing, prompting questions about whether there were techniques or knowledge that have been lost to time. Some researchers have speculated further. The exactitude of the cuts and the geometric uniformity of the blocks have led to theories suggesting the use of advanced measuring instruments, or perhaps even tools that leave no trace in the archaeological record. Could there have been lost methods of polishing, cutting, or even transporting stone that surpassed conventional expectations for the era? And if so, how did these techniques emerge, and why were they not transmitted widely, leaving only Puma Punku and Tiwanaku as their surviving testimony? The material itself adds layers of mystery. Andesite and red sandstone are both dense and extremely hard, challenging even for modern equipment to cut with precision. At Puma Punku, some blocks weigh as much as 130 tons. Transporting these stones from quarries located miles away would have required remarkable logistical planning. Scholars suggest sledges, rollers, or river transport, yet no definitive evidence survives to fully explain the method. The precision with which these stones were shaped before being moved, combined with their weight and distance, raises questions about the limits of human ingenuity and coordination in the ancient world. Puma Punku also presents patterns that hint at advanced conceptual design. Certain blocks have perfectly symmetrical holes. Others bear intricate angles that suggest an understanding of modularity and prefabrication. Could this indicate that Tiwanaku architects conceptualized buildings in terms of components assembled on site, similar to modern modular construction? Or do these precise features suggest knowledge of engineering principles that surpass what we typically credit to pre-Columbian societies? Beyond engineering, the site's alignment and spatial organization are equally compelling. Some scholars note that certain structures correspond to astronomical markers, aligning with solstices and equinoxes, hinting at a civilization deeply attuned to celestial cycles. Could the geometric precision of the stone blocks reflect an intentional integration of cosmology and architecture, where the placement of stone itself was a map of the heavens? The mystery of Puma Punku resonates not only in its physical construction, but in what it implies about the people who built it. The Tiwanaku civilization, now long vanished, must have possessed not only technical knowledge, but social organization, labor coordination, and architectural vision of remarkable sophistication. Yet so much remains unknown. The full purpose of the site, the techniques used to achieve its precision, and the knowledge encoded in its stonework. What other secrets are buried beneath the layers of collapsed blocks and centuries of erosion? In contemplating Puma Punku, one is struck by the dialogue between human ambition and the material world. The blocks themselves are silent, but their precision speaks volumes about intellect, observation, and the ability to manipulate the natural environment with extraordinary skill. They suggest that the boundaries of ancient technology may be far broader than conventional accounts allow, and that civilizations often possessed capabilities now obscured by time. Could Puma Punku be evidence of lost techniques, or perhaps a surviving testament to knowledge deliberately preserved in stone? Were these architectural feats purely practical, ceremonial, or a combination of both? And what might future discoveries reveal about the construction methods, purposes, or even cultural philosophies behind such extraordinary precision? As we stand, or imagine standing, among these massive stones, the enormity of human ingenuity becomes palpable. Each block, cut with uncanny exactitude, hints at understanding, labor, and vision that challenges modern assumptions. The grooves, channels, and interlocking shapes whisper across centuries, suggesting knowledge of engineering, mathematics, and perhaps cosmology that survives only in stone. Puma Punku endures as both monument and mystery, a place where the limits of ancient human capability meet the enduring questions of history. It invites us to wonder not only how these stones were moved and shaped, but why they were designed with such precision, and what ideas, rituals, or knowledge were encoded in their geometry. The ruins remain a silent testimony to ingenuity, leaving observers with a profound, unanswerable question. How much of our past of human capability remains hidden in the stones of civilizations long vanished, waiting to be discovered, studied, and marveled at? From the precise, monumental stones of Puma Punku, shaped and aligned with a level of craftsmanship that continues to astonish engineers and archaeologists alike, we now journey across the Americas to the lowlands of Mesoamerica, where another civilization left behind a collection of enigmatic monuments that speak in silence across millennia: the Olmec Altars. These ancient stone structures, some simple, others elaborately carved, provide glimpses into a culture that thrived along the Gulf Coast of what is now Mexico between 1500 BCE and 400 BCE, leaving behind artifacts that are at once powerful, mysterious, and deeply symbolic. The Olmec Altars are imposing in their scale and artistry. Carved from basalt, a dense volcanic stone transported over considerable distances, these altars often appear as massive rectangular blocks, yet their surfaces are frequently adorned with intricate bas-reliefs, glyph-like symbols, and depictions of humans, deities, and hybrid creatures. At first glance, they may resemble simple platforms, but closer inspection reveals complex iconography and deep symbolic intent. Some altars feature what appears to be intertwined humans and jaguars, a motif that recurs across Olmec art, suggesting spiritual or ritual significance. Others bear depictions of figures in reclining postures, holding mysterious implements or positioned within what may represent mythological narratives. The scale of the altars is remarkable. Some weigh dozens of tons, carefully quarried and transported from distant basalt sources, a task requiring extraordinary planning, labor coordination, and ingenuity. The Olmecs achieved this without wheeled vehicles or draft animals, relying on human effort, rafts, and sledges to move stones across rivers and terrain. The precision with which the altars were carved, smooth surfaces, sharp edges, and deeply incised motifs, raises questions about their methods. How did they manipulate such heavy stone while preserving the intricate details of the carvings? What tools were employed to achieve such accuracy, given the technological constraints of the time? Many of the altars are associated with ceremonial centers, such as La Venta, San Lorenzo, and Tres Zapotes, often placed in prominent locations atop mounds, plazas, or raised platforms. Their positioning suggests a deliberate connection to the surrounding landscape, possibly aligning with rivers, celestial events, or other natural features. Could these altars have functioned as focal points for rituals designed to connect human activity with the cosmos, invoking spiritual authority through architecture and symbolism? Or were they primarily markers of political power, erected to impress, intimidate, or memorialize leaders within an emerging socio-political hierarchy? The carvings themselves are steeped in mystery. Figures often display a combination of human and animal characteristics, with jaguar motifs appearing repeatedly. Jaguars were central to Olmec cosmology, associated with the underworld, fertility, and transformative power. Figures appear in dynamic poses, sometimes holding objects that remain difficult to interpret, or intertwined in ways that suggest ceremonial enactments. Could these depictions encode knowledge of religious rituals, social hierarchy, or even astronomical cycles? Some scholars argue that certain altars may function as mythological maps, translating the sacred stories of the Olmec into stone, preserving knowledge that could only be fully understood within the cultural and ceremonial context of the civilization itself. Beyond the iconography, the altars themselves raise questions about the Olmec understanding of materials and construction. Basalt is notoriously difficult to shape, yet the Olmecs carved it with remarkable precision, creating both flat planes and deeply recessed reliefs without fracturing the stone. Some altars feature interlocking elements or protrusions suggesting that they may have been anchored to other structures or fitted within a larger architectural plan. How much of this skill was empirical, honed through observation and repetition, and how much was guided by an understanding of geometry, leverage, and material properties that seems almost modern in its sophistication? The function of these altars remains debated. Traditional interpretations emphasize their role in ritual sacrifice, ancestor worship, or ceremonial gatherings, supported by their placement within ceremonial centers and their frequent proximity to elite tombs. Yet other researchers suggest that some altars may have served as thrones, platforms for rulers to demonstrate authority, or even as interactive objects within ceremonial performances. The hybrid imagery may represent shamanic transformation, where leaders symbolically merged with jaguar spirits to claim divine power. Could it be that these altars were multifunctional, simultaneously sacred, political, and cosmological tools designed to consolidate power, encode knowledge, and influence perception? The scale of Olmec engineering, both in moving the basalt and in shaping it, also raises broader questions. What systems of labor, planning, and knowledge were required to transport these stones over miles of difficult terrain? Did the Olmecs develop measurement techniques or rudimentary engineering principles to ensure precise placement and stability? And what happened to this knowledge when the civilization declined? Was it lost entirely or partially transmitted to successor cultures, leaving tantalizing echoes in later Mesoamerican architecture and iconography? Some speculative interpretations invite even more profound questions. Certain altars appear to align with cardinal directions, and some scholars have proposed that they could encode cosmological knowledge, astronomical observations, or even calendars. Could the Olmecs, like the Sumerians or Maya, have integrated careful observation of the heavens into their architecture, using stone as a medium for encoding time, celestial cycles, or spiritual cosmology? And if so, how much of this knowledge remains unreadable, obscured by the collapse of the Olmec civilization and the partial destruction of the sites over centuries? The durability of the altars adds another layer of intrigue. Surviving millennia of exposure to sun, rain, and erosion, these stones preserve the artistry and intentions of a civilization that vanished long ago. In their silence, they speak of human ambition, technical skill, and a worldview that sought to merge the natural, spiritual, and social realms into a coherent physical expression. Yet, like many ancient artifacts, they leave gaps that tantalize the imagination. Inscriptions or symbolic details that may have held meaning now lost, or positioning that may have interacted with ritual practices or celestial events we can only speculate about. In examining an Olmec altar, one encounters a tangible connection to a people who valued precision, ritual, and representation. Each carving, each carefully placed stone embodies intention, knowledge, and cultural identity. The altars are more than stone. They are vessels of memory, carriers of mythology, and perhaps even repositories of knowledge about the natural and supernatural world. And yet, their full meaning remains just beyond reach, a puzzle formed by fragments of culture, lost context, and the erosion of time. Could the Olmec altars, in their intricate carvings and monumental presence, contain knowledge of cosmology, governance, or ritual practices that we have yet to decipher? Might they preserve a sophisticated understanding of social order, spiritual belief, or celestial observation encoded in stone? And how many more such artifacts, buried beneath layers of earth or scattered across the Gulf Coast, might reveal insights into a civilization that flourished with an intellect and vision often underestimated by modern assumptions? Standing among these altars, or imagining their placement within ancient ceremonial centers, one is struck by the dialogue between human ambition, natural materials, and spiritual vision. The Olmecs, like the builders of Puma Punku, the makers of the Iron Pillar of Delhi, and the creators of the Dresden Codex, sought to leave an enduring mark upon the world, blending practicality, ritual, and artistry. Their altars endure as both monument and mystery, silent yet eloquent, inviting us to ponder the ingenuity of the human mind, the persistence of cultural memory, and the hidden knowledge that may yet lie waiting beneath the soil, waiting for discovery. In the massive basalt blocks and intricate carvings of the Olmec Altars, we see not only a civilization's skill, but also a civilization's questions about power, spirituality, and the cosmos. And as we contemplate these silent witnesses to a world long vanished, we are reminded that history preserves fragments of brilliance and enigma alike, inviting us to imagine what has been lost, what survives, and what remains just out of reach, a challenge to our understanding, and a testament to the enduring mystery of human achievement. From the colossal basalt and intricate basalt andesite altars of the Olmecs, which reveal a civilization capable of monumental vision, ritual sophistication, and artistic mastery, we now shift our gaze eastward across continents and millennia to the fertile plains of the Sichuan Basin in China. Here lies a discovery so startling, so unlike anything previously found in early Bronze Age China, that it challenges our assumptions about technological skill, cultural expression, and the very history of civilization itself. The Sanxingdui Masks. Buried beneath layers of earth for nearly 4 millennia, the Sanxingdui site, discovered in the 1920s and fully excavated in the late 20th century, revealed an array of bronze artifacts that immediately captured the attention of archaeologists worldwide. Among these treasures are the masks, massive, otherworldly faces cast in bronze, often several feet tall, with exaggerated features unlike any other known from the period. Eyes bulging from their sockets, high-bridged noses, wide flaring ears, and elongated faces lend them a surreal, almost alien appearance. Some masks are gilded, their surfaces gleaming faintly even after thousands of years underground. Others are adorned with intricate patterns of geometric and organic motifs, as if the artists were translating visions or spiritual concepts directly into bronze. The mask's scale alone is remarkable. Many weigh dozens of kilograms, their production requiring not only advanced metallurgical knowledge, but also access to sophisticated casting techniques. Lost wax casting and piece mold casting were in use in Bronze Age China, but the size, precision, and complexity of the Sanxingdui masks suggest an expertise that seems almost unparalleled for the period. How did the artisans achieve such uniformity, such fine detail, and such massive proportions without compromising the integrity of the metal? What tools, what skills, and what knowledge must have been available to create faces that seem to look directly at the observer, even after millennia? Equally puzzling is the mask's design. Unlike other contemporary Chinese bronzes, which often depict animals, geometric patterns, or ceremonial vessels, the Sanxingdui masks appear uniquely anthropomorphic yet stylized. Eyes are often disproportionately large, noses sharp and elongated, and mouths small or entirely absent. Some scholars suggest these features symbolize spiritual or shamanic qualities, representing deities, ancestors, or beings from a cosmology now lost. Could these faces have been intended to invoke awe, to bridge the human and divine, or even to serve as conduits between the physical and spiritual worlds? And why do they differ so radically from the bronzes of other contemporaneous cultures in China, suggesting a distinct civilization operating with its own aesthetic and religious paradigms? The context of the masks deepens the mystery. Many were discovered in sacrificial pits, buried deliberately alongside other ritual objects, including jade, ivory, and smaller bronze figurines. These pits, sometimes over 6 meters deep, appear to have been carefully prepared, with the masks arranged in positions that suggest ceremonial intent. Was this destruction and burial part of a ritual renewal, an offering to deities, or a symbolic act of closure for a site or civilization? And if these practices were so intricate, why does the culture that produced them seemingly vanish from history, leaving few direct successors? The technical sophistication of the masks raises further questions. Bronze production at Sanxingdui required precise control of alloys, temperatures, and casting processes. Yet some of the mask's most striking features, sharp, thin edges, exaggerated projections, and delicate patterns, would have been extremely difficult to achieve without an advanced understanding of metallurgy. Did the Sanxingdui artisans possess lost techniques, methods for tempering and casting that surpassed what was known elsewhere in the ancient world? And if so, how did such knowledge emerge and then disappear, leaving behind only these haunting artifacts as evidence of extraordinary capability? Speculative interpretations abound, and the mask's unusual features fuel them. Some observers note that the oversized eyes, pointed ears, and dramatic facial proportions appear almost otherworldly. Were they merely stylistic exaggerations to emphasize spiritual qualities, or could they represent visions inspired by ritual, trance, or altered states of consciousness? Certain researchers have even proposed more controversial ideas, suggesting that the mask's proportions evoke beings not entirely human, though such claims remain firmly in the realm of speculation. What is undeniable, however, is that these objects reflect a culture willing to push artistic and conceptual boundaries far beyond the conventions of their time. Another layer of intrigue lies in the mask's interaction with space and human perception. Many of the largest masks would have dwarfed contemporary observers, their presence commanding attention and likely inspiring both reverence and fear. The sculptors may have deliberately exaggerated features to project power, spiritual authority, or divine association. Could this suggest that Sanxingdui was a society in which visual symbolism, scale, and presence played a central role in governance, ritual, or social cohesion? And if so, what does this imply about the political and spiritual organization of a civilization that otherwise left few written records? The mystery deepens when considering the sudden disappearance of the Sanxingdui culture. Unlike civilizations that gradually transition into successors, Sanxingdui seems to vanish from the archaeological record, leaving behind monumental bronze works, massive masks, and sacrificial pits, but little direct continuity. Why was such a sophisticated civilization abandoned or destroyed? Environmental changes, flooding, internal strife, or conquest have been proposed, but the truth remains uncertain. And in the absence of textual records, the masks themselves serve as cryptic witnesses, communicating something vital about belief, identity, and artistic vision, yet withholding clear answers. Beyond their cultural context, the Sanxingdui masks challenge our understanding of technological evolution. Many historians had previously assumed that early Chinese bronze work followed a relatively linear development from utilitarian vessels to complex ritual artifacts. Sanxingdui disrupts that narrative, presenting bronze forms that are, in some ways, more imaginative, audacious, and technically advanced than many contemporaneous pieces in other regions. Could this indicate parallel technological development, lost knowledge, or cultural innovation that has yet to be fully appreciated? Standing before an image of a Sanxingdui mask, whether in a museum display or imagined in the original sacrificial pit, the observer is confronted with the skill, vision, and imagination of a people separated from us by 4,000 years. Each bulging eye, each flaring ear, each gilded surface seems to speak, not in words, but in presence, demanding attention, reverence, and reflection. The masks are more than objects. They are interfaces between past and present, human and divine, known and unknowable. Could the Sanxingdui Masks encode ritual knowledge, spiritual beliefs, or cosmological insights that modern scholarship has yet to decipher? Might the exaggerated forms reflect a worldview in which perception, transcendence, and symbolism were intertwined in ways that challenge contemporary assumptions? And how many other artifacts, buried beneath layers of soil or submerged in memory, might similarly reveal civilizations with technical and artistic capabilities that rival or surpass our expectations of the ancient world? In contemplating the Sanxingdui Masks, one is reminded of the recurring theme throughout our exploration: civilizations across time and space achieving feats of artistry, engineering, and symbolism that continue to astonish. Like the Olmec Altars, the Puma Punku stone blocks, or the Sumerian star maps, these masks endure as silent witnesses to ingenuity, imagination, and cultural complexity. They compel us to ask not only how they were made, but why, and to consider the knowledge, belief systems, and societal structures that gave rise to such extraordinary creations. The Sanxingdui Masks remain one of the most enigmatic legacies of the Bronze Age. They are simultaneously human and alien, familiar and uncanny, technical and expressive. They challenge our understanding of the limits of early civilization and force us to confront the possibility that there are dimensions of human skill, artistry, and ritual practice that remain lost to history. And as we ponder their bulging eyes and gilded surfaces, we are left with an open question that echoes across the centuries. What secrets lie still buried in the earth, in bronze and in memory, waiting to reveal the extraordinary capabilities of civilizations that thrived long before the modern world took shape? In their silent grandeur, the Sanxingdui Masks endure as both artifacts and questions, a testament to human imagination and technical skill, and an enduring invitation to explore, study, and wonder at the mysteries that lie at the heart of our shared past. From the gilded, surreal masks of Sanxingdui, which stare across millennia with bulging eyes and exaggerated features, we now travel across oceans and centuries to the forests and hills of North America, where a small, unassuming artifact has sparked debates over history, interpretation, and possibility: the Lenape Stone. Unlike monumental bronzes or colossal stone blocks, this artifact is modest in size, an engraved slab of slate, smooth and darkened with age. But it carries a mystery far larger than its physical dimensions might suggest. The Lenape Stone, reportedly discovered in the 19th century in the region inhabited by the Lenape people, bears engravings that appear to depict humans interacting with dinosaurs. Figures wielding tools or weapons are shown alongside creatures with long necks and tails, bipedal forms, and reptilian characteristics that strongly resemble reconstructions of species that are believed to have been extinct for tens of millions of years. The stone is small enough to hold in the hand, yet its imagery is staggering in implication. A possible record of coexistence between humans and creatures that conventional science maintains never overlapped in time. Descriptions of the discovery suggest it was unearthed along with other artifacts in a Native American context, adding an additional layer of intrigue. If genuine, the Lenape Stone would dramatically challenge our understanding of prehistory. Could the engravings reflect a direct observation, preserved in a culture's oral or artistic tradition? Or are they symbolic representations, perhaps mythologized creatures drawn from imagination, ritual, or spiritual belief? And if so, why would they take the form of creatures so closely resembling scientifically identified species, rather than abstract or purely symbolic beasts? The craftsmanship of the stone is subtle, yet deliberate. The figures are etched with precision, demonstrating an understanding of proportion, perspective, and movement. The creature's anatomy, while stylized in some aspects, is strikingly consistent with scientific reconstructions of various dinosaur forms, with correct limb positioning, tail balance, and body posture. Such accuracy raises questions. Could an ancient artisan, without knowledge of paleontology, produce depictions this anatomically coherent? Was the artist drawing from stories passed down through generations, or from some now lost knowledge of these creatures' forms? Scholars and skeptics have long debated the Lenape Stone's authenticity. Some suggest it is a hoax, possibly created in the 19th century to stir excitement or to fit pre-existing narratives of humans encountering prehistoric creatures. Others argue that the context of its discovery, the style of engraving, and the composition of the figures suggest a more ancient origin, perhaps rooted in indigenous storytelling or ceremonial art. How can one reconcile the apparent accuracy of the creature's anatomy with the absence of supporting evidence in the fossil record of human-dinosaur coexistence? Could it be that the stone represents a symbolic memory rather than a literal record, encoding knowledge in ways that modern interpretation struggles to comprehend? The symbolism of the stone cannot be ignored. Many indigenous cultures encode spiritual beliefs, cosmology, and moral lessons within artistic representations. Perhaps the Lenape Stone was never intended as a literal depiction of reality, but as a teaching tool, a mythic narrative, or a ritual object. Yet even within these frameworks, the resemblance of the creatures to scientifically recognized dinosaurs remains curious. Could the symbolism have been informed by fragmented observations, oral memory of large reptiles, or even the imaginative reconstruction of animals whose forms were exaggerated over time? And if so, how did these motifs persist in a culture largely unexposed to fossil knowledge? The implications of the Lenape Stone extend beyond art and myth into broader questions about human history and paleontology. If the engravings are to be interpreted literally, even partially, they would suggest that humans and dinosaurs coexisted far more recently than conventional science allows. Could this imply gaps in our understanding of extinction timelines, or the survival of previously unknown species into the recent past? And if the stone is metaphorical, how do we account for the uncanny anatomical accuracy, the careful posture, and the naturalistic depiction of movement? These questions underscore the stone's enduring ability to provoke curiosity, debate, and wonder. The context in which the stone was found also contributes to its mystique. It was reportedly discovered in a site associated with the Lenape people, alongside other tools and artifacts of indigenous origin. This implies not only a sophisticated culture capable of engraving and symbolism, but also one with a long-standing tradition of storytelling and recording knowledge in physical form. How did these communities perceive the world, the past, and the natural order, and what knowledge or imagination did they encode in artifacts such as the Lenape Stone? Could it be that human observation and artistic expression captured insights that modern science has yet to recognize fully? Some speculative theories extend even further. Certain researchers propose that the Lenape Stone, along with similar controversial artifacts found in North America, may point to a lost knowledge system, a form of ancient record-keeping or storytelling that preserves memory of the distant past in symbolic or artistic form. Could these artifacts represent a bridge between myth and history, between observation and imagination, offering glimpses into realities that conventional archaeology does not fully account for? And if so, what other objects, lost to time, might exist that could provide further context for this extraordinary narrative? Even skeptics acknowledge the importance of the stone as a cultural artifact, independent of its purported implications for human prehistory. It embodies intentionality, technical skill and narrative vision. The engravings reflect observation, creativity, and symbolic thought, attributes that speak to the cognitive sophistication of its creators. Whether the depictions of dinosaurs are literal, metaphorical, or entirely symbolic, the stone remains a testament to human curiosity, storytelling, and the desire to capture understanding of the world in a tangible form. The Lenape Stone, in its small engraved form, forces us to confront the boundaries between imagination and reality, myth and history, interpretation and evidence. It invites us to ask difficult questions about the limits of human knowledge, the potential for lost information, and the ways in which ancient peoples encoded and transmitted what they knew or imagined. What other narratives have been buried, deliberately or through the erosion of time, that might illuminate histories we assume are settled? And how do we approach artifacts that challenge prevailing paradigms without dismissing them prematurely, yet also without accepting claims beyond what evidence can reasonably support? As we contemplate the Lenape Stone, its dark surface and etched figures seem almost alive, silently observing the modern world as much as we observe it. Each line, each form, embodies intention and memory, an echo of a past that remains partly obscured. The juxtaposition of human figures and dinosaur-like creatures elicits wonder, skepticism, and curiosity in equal measure, compelling us to imagine the hands that carved it, the stories it was meant to convey, and the worldview that produced such an artifact. Could the Lenape Stone, in its intricate engravings, preserve a memory of encounters, knowledge, or imaginative reconstructions long lost to us? Might it hint at perspectives on the natural world, spirituality, or cosmology that challenge the boundaries of our understanding? And what does its continued mystery tell us about the depth of human creativity, observation, and the ways in which cultures across time have sought to make sense of the world around them? In holding the Lenape Stone in the mind's eye, we engage not only with a physical object, but with an enduring enigma. It stands as a small but profound testament to human curiosity, skill, and imagination, a challenge to conventional history, and an invitation to wonder. And as with many artifacts we have explored, from Puma Punku to Sanxingdui, it reminds us that history is rarely simple, that evidence can surprise, and that the past still has secrets waiting to be discovered, studied, and understood. From the enigmatic Lenape Stone, which hints at a civilization's imagination or memory reaching across eons, we now voyage to the depths of the Aegean Sea, to a discovery that has fascinated historians, engineers, and astronomers alike for over a century: the Antikythera Mechanism. Unlike stone blocks or ritual masks, this artifact is small, fragile, and deceptively ordinary in appearance. A corroded bronze fragment recovered from a shipwreck off the coast of Antikythera, a Greek island, around 1901. Yet its significance extends far beyond its size, representing a level of technological sophistication that seems almost impossibly advanced for its time. The mechanism, now partially reconstructed and studied using X-ray imaging and 3D modeling, consists of a complex arrangement of interlocking gears, dials, and inscriptions. On first sight, it resembles a collection of rusted bronze wheels, yet careful analysis reveals a marvel of engineering, a device capable of predicting astronomical positions, eclipses, and even the cycles of the Olympic Games. Each gear is meticulously cut, calibrated to precise ratios, and assembled in a way that mirrors the motion of celestial bodies with astonishing accuracy. For a civilization often celebrated for philosophy and art, this mechanism reveals an unexpected mastery of mechanical computation. The discovery itself is dramatic. Found among the remains of a Roman-era shipwreck, lying for centuries on the seafloor, the fragments of the mechanism emerged in a context otherwise dominated by amphorae, statues, and mundane cargo. Its survival is a testament to both chance and durability, Submerged for nearly 2 millennia, encrusted with marine growth and partially corroded, it could so easily have been lost entirely. Yet here it is, a fragment of a device that challenges conventional timelines of technological development. How could a civilization of the 1st century BCE create a machine so intricate that comparable devices would not reappear for over 1,000 years? The Antikythera Mechanism is remarkable not only for its function, but for its design. Dozens of gears, some with 15, 19, or even 223 teeth, interact in precise sequences to replicate the movements of the sun, moon, and planets according to ancient Greek astronomical models. Inscriptions etched onto the device provide instructions, guiding users to track eclipses and other celestial phenomena. The level of precision suggests not only mechanical skill, but also a deep understanding of astronomical cycles, mathematics, and ratios. How did the ancient engineers conceive of such a machine? Were there workshops producing similar devices, now lost to history, or was this a singular creation, a brilliant but isolated achievement? Mainstream archaeology has interpreted the mechanism as an ancient analog computer, a testament to Hellenistic ingenuity and the pursuit of knowledge. Scholars have proposed that it reflects the astronomical theories of Hipparchus or Posidonius, translated into mechanical form. Yet even within this framework, the device seems extraordinary. For an era dominated by hand calculations, tables, and observational records, the Antikythera Mechanism embodies a mechanization of thought, a tangible representation of the cosmos in miniature, rendered in bronze. Could there have been a tradition of precision engineering in the Hellenistic world that has been almost entirely lost? Speculation deepens when considering the sophistication of the gears themselves. The teeth are cut with remarkable uniformity, the ratios calculated with precision sufficient to model lunar and solar cycles accurately. Some researchers suggest that the techniques required for such craftsmanship, gear cutting, shaft alignment, and rotational calibration, represent knowledge that would not be commonly seen again until the Renaissance. Were there workshops producing intricate mechanical devices in ancient Greece, operating with tools and techniques now forgotten? And if so, why does so little evidence survive beyond this extraordinary artifact? The inscriptions on the mechanism also invite fascination. While largely technical, they suggest a culture not only capable of abstract observation, but of codifying that knowledge in a way intended for repeated use. It is as if the device is not just a tool, but a teaching instrument, a repository of collective understanding translated into motion. How many hands worked to design, cut, and assemble this machine? How many years of observation, calculation, and refinement were necessary before the first gear turned in concert with the cosmos? And how much more of this knowledge might have existed only to vanish with the destruction of workshops, libraries, or the passage of time? The Antikythera Mechanism also raises profound questions about the trajectory of human technological development. Its existence suggests that ancient civilizations may have achieved levels of engineering that modern historians tend to underestimate. Could it be that such devices were more common than the archaeological record indicates, lost to corrosion, recycling, or simple neglect? Or was this machine a singular masterpiece, a testament to an individual genius or a small circle of engineers whose knowledge disappeared with them? The mechanism's implications extend beyond technology into philosophy, mathematics, and cosmology. By modeling the heavens mechanically, the device embodies a worldview in which celestial motion can be understood, predicted, and harmonized with human life. It represents the tangible merging of observation, theory, and craftsmanship. In its gears and dials, one sees not only mathematics and astronomy, but also the human desire to comprehend time, cycles, and cosmic order. Could this perspective have influenced other aspects of society, rituals, calendars, or navigation? Or was it a specialized knowledge accessible to only a select few? Some speculative thinkers have suggested even more provocative possibilities. Could the Antikythera Mechanism represent a technology whose sophistication surpasses what we imagine for the ancient world? Might it hint at traditions of mechanical innovation, observation, and computation that existed in parallel with what has survived in written records? While such claims are often controversial, the very existence of the mechanism forces us to reconsider assumptions about the linear progression of technology, the limits of ancient knowledge, and the fragility of human memory across time. Even the fragments of the mechanism that survive today inspire awe. Holding in mind the interlocking bronze gears, some only a few centimeters across yet integral to the motion of the entire system, one imagines the precision required to ensure that each tooth meshes flawlessly, that each rotation corresponds to lunar months or solar positions. How many prototypes were tested, how many failures discarded, and how many revisions required to achieve this functional perfection? And how many other devices, now lost, may have explored different principles of calculation, astronomy, or measurement? The Antikythera Mechanism, in its silent complexity, represents both achievement and mystery. It challenges our assumptions about who is capable of innovation, what knowledge can be lost, and how human curiosity drives the creation of tools that extend the mind's reach. The device is more than bronze gears. It is a testament to ingenuity, observation, and the pursuit of understanding, surviving against the odds to speak across 2,000 years. Could the Antikythera Mechanism, in its remarkable precision and design, represent a broader tradition of mechanical engineering in the ancient world, now almost entirely lost? Might it suggest that civilizations we consider primitive in terms of technology were capable of understanding and manipulating complex systems in ways that rival modern comprehension? And what other artifacts, hidden beneath centuries of sediment, corrosion, or neglect, might similarly challenge our understanding of human capability? In contemplating the Antikythera Mechanism, one is struck by the interplay of intellect, craftsmanship, and observation. It embodies the ambition to capture the heavens in motion, to create a tangible representation of time, cycles, and cosmic order. And yet, as with the Lenape Stone, the Sanxingdui Masks, or Puma Punku, it leaves us with profound questions. How much knowledge has been lost to history? What other feats of engineering and ingenuity might once have existed? And how might the past continue to surprise us if we search carefully enough? The Antikythera Mechanism endures not simply as a relic, but as a challenge to modern understanding, a device that reminds us that the history of human innovation is far richer, more intricate, and more enigmatic than we often assume. In its interlocking gears and engraved dials, we encounter not only ancient technology, but the enduring human desire to measure, predict, and comprehend the universe. And as we study, model, and wonder at this extraordinary artifact, the question persists: what other secrets lie hidden in the annals of human history, waiting to be discovered, understood, and marveled at?